Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Start recording this podcast right now. Is everybody cool with that?
That would be rad, Nick.
Thank you. I was hoping somebody would insert some 1998 lingo right there. Thanks, Nolan, for your contribution. Hello, everyone. Welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is actually episode 566. My name is Nick Henderson. I am joined this evening by Bradley Simons.
What's up?
Bradley. Oh, God. Nolan Hedstrom.
Hi.
And Christopher Guthridge.
What's going on, dudes?
Not much, but I will say this. It is...
You're a girl from the 90s.
Sorry.
Welcome to our first podcast of 1998 month. We are celebrating the wonderful year of 1998 all month long on our stream over at 4pp.tv. You can find us streaming games every single day at 4pp.tv, or you can find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/4player
Don't you mean
podcast.
Our radio show, Nick?
Yeah, it's weird talking about these. We're trying to do this 1998 themed thing. We got to talk about all these things that didn't exist in 1998.
The internet existed in 1998.
I couldn't find
in a
my
very
boppin'.
different form, though, Nolan.
So,
Yeah.
But that's true. Oh,
Remember
there was
Skip It?
less videos of people getting railed in the butt.
Skip it.
we're gonna
Skip it, yeah.
Skip it.
We're going to be reminiscing a lot about the year of 1998. It's going to be a little bit of a different show. In fact, it's going to be a little bit of a different month for us. There's a lot of current stuff coming out, but we're not talking about those
Yeah,
this
fuck
month.
those games.
We are talking about games. We're talking and playing games that came out in the year 1998, which was an amazing year for video games. A lot of great games came out. A lot of series that are still going very strong had their start in the year 1998.
I gotta say, I feel like you're not saying it enough, Nick, but this is the 20th anniversary for all of these goddamn games.
Yes, it is. I sometimes when I talk about it, I forget we're not just celebrating it. It has actually been 20 years since these games came out.
For like the greatest games.
Yeah. So
And then Fallout 2.
and so we're gonna revisit.
Damn.
Oh
shit.
So all month long, every single day we're playing nothing but games that came out in 1998. And when we do sit down to record a podcast together, we're going to be focusing mostly on games that came out during that year. However, I do want to say that we are going to be there are things happening. In fact, it's been a pretty news heavy month, surprisingly. There's definitely some stuff to talk about. There's some games that are coming out right now that are worth talking about, even though we won't be featuring those on our main show this month.
We remain chaste.
We will be recording some bonus podcasts off the air and releasing them to you. So if you want to find out how we feel about things like I don't know, Dead Cells or Chasm or all that new Red Dead stuff that happened today, I would say keep your eyes on our RSS feed, and we'll get those podcasts out to you as soon as we can. We're going to record the first one sometime next week.
Nick, that would be groovy, you scalawag.
Isn't groovy a 70s thing?
Groovy? Isn't Scallywag like a 1600s thing?
Yeah, like
I don't know if Brad's fully grasping or
Pirates
going
weren't
for
cool
accuracy
yet.
here.
That's the
The big ship movie was Titanic. Okay.
We did pull up a 90s slang encyclopedia and quickly went off the rails. I was like, I don't think half these things were being said in the 90s. Carlos in chat says tubular. Did anybody ever actually use the word tubular?
Yeah, on the West Coast?
I would say that's more
Coast.
late 80s.
Oh my god.
I used it all the time. Not.
So there we go. That was on the list. That's Brad's going to be obnoxious during this episode. I can already tell. Anyways,
Wait, Nick, did you just describe every episode we've ever done?
That's true. I did, yes. Anyways, before we get started, just a couple quick things. I do want to pimp things that are not 1998 related, like our Discord. Of course, our Discord is still going strong. If you're a member of our community, if you're listening to our show for the very first time, or you just have been listening for a while and you haven't had a chance to join yet, please head on over to our Discord. It's discord.gg/4player. It is the best way to be a part of our wonderful community. You can jump in there and you can talk with us. You can talk with all of our lovely community members all day long about all the cool shit happening in the gaming industry. So please head on over there. We'd love to have you. I also would like... Patreon. You can support us on Patreon. We record these podcasts every single week, and we love doing them. We want you guys to hear them, but we also would appreciate any support you want to throw our way. Even if it's as little as $1 a month, we appreciate every dollar, and that also gives you the ability to ask us questions on every episode of the podcast, which we will be reading in the second half of the show. We did get some 1998 themed questions too, I believe. I just had one more thing I was going to say, and now it's totally losing it. Anyways, let's get started, shall we? I do want to read some feedback from our last podcast, which was 2 weeks ago. Last week, we actually got together and did a 1998 themed multiplayer night instead of the podcast. So it's been 2 weeks since we actually recorded a show. We'll talk about some of those games from the multiplayer night, but I want to read some feedback from last week. Our first one comes from, I believe, Equack. He says, I'm hyped to see Shogo Mobile Armor Division on your list of games for 1998 month. I believe that's a Chris Davis thing. Am I right, Chris Davis? Chris Davis gives the thumbs up. It's worth playing for the intro alone. Is anyone going to do Myth 2 Soul... What is that?
Soul Blighter?
Blighter? Soul Blighter?
I think Carlos.
It's secretly Bungie's best game and has the best storytelling of any RTS.
Isn't that the game that like deleted your C drive or whatever?
What the fuck?
When you installed it?
What?
Like when they first launched that game?
Like they fucked something up and it would like wipe your drive.
It was some bullshit like that.
Wow.
Jesus.
Wow.
That sounds dangerous. Maybe I'm going to let Carlos
Also,
handle that.
Shogo. Y'all know who developed Shogo?
No.
Bungie.
That's Monolith. Yeah. And it was like super anime inspired.
It's Monolith before they did Condemned or Fear.
Yeah, you should watch the intro for that game because it's like crazy. Yeah, well, and before they did like No One Lives Forever, and stuff. It was yeah, and that game's pretty cool.
Chris Davis, do you remember off the top of your head what day of the month you're playing that on the feed?
This Saturday.
Oh, that's this Saturday?
Yes.
Oh, this Saturday. So that would be the 11th, I believe.
10th,
11th.
I know math.
You know I'm gonna be playing
this Thursday.
You know I'm gonna be playing tomorrow, Nick.
Hold on, let me. Oh, is tomorrow Ninja versus
Samurai?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with this feedback?
I don't know, but this is a great place for it. I'm gonna be playing Brave Fencer Musashi and what's the other game called? Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, who's a ninja.
Goemon.
And we're gonna decide which is better, the samurai or the ninja.
You and Chad are gonna just decide. Sit there and decide.
We're gonna do a poll
That's
at the end of the
tough.
night or some shit. I don't know.
Equack also says,
I vote for
I
Samurai.
can't believe Nick hasn't watched a speed run. If you, I still haven't. If I can make you watch one, it's for a 1998 game, Half-Life. It's 21 minutes, you won't regret. Now, I'll be honest. I was thinking to myself, I should really watch this before the podcast this week. It's only 21 minutes, and it's a 1998 game. And you know what?
It's not going to mean much to you unless you've played the game.
See, that's the thing. I've never played the original Half-Life.
Yeah.
To completion, at least.
You should.
I know, I should. This would be a great.
This would have been a good month to do it, Nick.
I mean, since we're kind of talking about some of the stuff we're playing on the feed all month, we're all kind of playing. We're kind of jumping back and forth between games that we've already played and we love from the month, and we're playing some games that we've never touched before. Nolan's shaking his head. I guess you're trying all new stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me too. I'm playing the.
Most of I have never finished any of the games I'm playing this
Brad,
month.
have you ever finished a game?
Yeah.
It's been a few years. But like next Monday, I'm playing Banjo-Kazooie for the very first. Or no, sorry. I guess now it's going to be next Tuesday.
For the first time?
Yeah.
First time. I've never.
You never played
I've probably
Banjo-Kazooie?
I've held a controller and played around with Banjo-Kazooie on a screen before, but like I've never played that game with the intention of actually playing and finishing it.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, dude.
But yeah, there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff. Crispy's gonna play the original Metal Gear Solid for the very first time,
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, I played Twin Snakes.
Yeah, but like that's not the same.
Yeah,
It's not
I've
the
never
same.
played the original version of Metal Gear Solid, which is different.
Yes, but I would argue probably the better experience.
Really?
They have less
It's better.
faces.
Yes,
It's better. It's older.
I don't believe you.
So you got to play an older game,
as someone
but
who,
it is better.
like I usually jump all over these like remakes, right? But I don't know what it is. But for some reason, like I kept seeing gameplay of Twin Snakes and trailers and stuff before it came out, and it just didn't capture. It didn't have like the magic of the original one, so I just kind of never played it. I could be wrong. Maybe it has that magic, but the first one is like is a really unique, like, magical experience. I hope you enjoy it because it's
Well-
crazy good. It's crazy good,
Well, we'll see what happens.
and they don't.
I hope I enjoy it because I like every other Metal Gear Solid.
It has
game
a
I
tone
played.
and like an atmosphere that I feel like no other game in the series has captured since. But like they're all pretty different games, but that
Yeah.
one feels pretty unique, I think, compared
This
to
is
everything
the
else.
only.
It's the best one.
Well, I guess. Well, I haven't finished 5, but this is the only other game in the main Metal Gear Solid series that I've never finished.
Oh, really?
So
This
that's
is-
cool. I'm excited.
It's pretty good. I hope you enjoy it. We'll check in on you.
Wait, so you-
towards the end of the month after you.
So
played
you
that.
finished Metal Gear?
No, I said in the Metal Gear Solid series.
Oh, okay.
Those are two different
I
series.
haven't played.
Nolan.
I haven't played the NES Metal Gears.
Dude, they're actually pretty good.
I haven't played Acid or Acid 2.
And there are people
Yeah,
who would
I guess I haven't
throw
played Peace
themselves into
Walker
oncoming
either.
traffic to
Whatever.
defend that game.
Acid?
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's fucking cool.
It is a pretty cool game.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying there are people who are rabid fans of it who would throw themselves.
Why
into
would
the
I
fire.
throw myself into traffic?
Although I did try the original Metal Gear on which one? Which one was it? Like Metal Gear
Subsistence?
4 or something
3
had like
subsistence?
had a bunch. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
3 had like all of the
Mhm.
past versions on a disc.
Oh, really?
I tried playing some of the older
I
ones.
have it over there.
I recommend Ghost Battle. It's like the old ones, but it's more modernized.
Yeah,
So it's a little more friendly, but it's designed like in the old style.
yeah.
But it's for the Game Boy Color, so I guess it could still seem old to you.
Way off topic.
We are off topic. Do we want to read the last comment?
Yeah,
It is
I
not
don't- I mean,
1998
I had
related,
a
but I'm
Game
going to
Boy-
read it
You mean this
anyways.
comment from the future?
From the future. Dr. Gonzo2 says, while it is nice to know that Hello Games did all they could to improve No Man's Sky into next, to me, it's a little too late for anyone to go back into it. Very little people I've seen online have expressed interest in going back to it because they feel it will enable more companies to do the same thing to their games. I'm going to say this. I have no idea what you're talking about because the week that game
we
came...
never heard of No
No.
Man's Sky.
Because the week that game came out, like No Man's Sky Next came out, like that is all I saw on the internet. Like people wouldn't stop.
And you know
talking
what?
about
A week later, no one's talking about it. The hype for that died faster than it died for Octopath Traveler.
I'm 12 hours into No Man's Sky next.
it. And I did buy.
Well,
Yeah.
if only you had a podcast where you could talk about it, Nolan.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you-
Maybe
are
it's
you-
just my circles, but I see No Man's Sky stuff every day.
yeah. I
I
feel-
see screenshots.
I see it all the time too, and it's also become this thing on Twitter because like the game is like they've added so much to it. Like there's so many like beautiful things to take. Like people are
Yeah.
just posting like amazing like beautiful photos like all over Twitter.
Just
Every
want
time
you
I
I
to
think
see
it's one of those scenarios. If you had originally played it in its lesser form, you might have gotten burnt out. And now that this new content's out, you don't want to play it, which is often something that happens. That like when Brad and I first started playing Subnautica, we ended up putting it down because we didn't want to get burnt out on a lesser version of what was eventually going to be a much better game.
And also,
And
like,
I think that's a similar scenario where, especially with any game that comes out in early access or alpha or beta or whatever, like if you play too much of it early on, like you never end up going back to it. A prime example for me is like Minecraft. I played like 80 hours of
Yeah.
Minecraft when it was in fucking alpha.
Yeah.
So by the time it fucking actually came out and there's a story, I'm like, I'm done with this game.
Yeah.
Like I am over it.
absolutely.
I loved my time with that Minecraft
yeah, so did
alpha,
I.
but like, and I ended up giving
Back
it
when
my
when there wasn't a fucking like recipes for shit, you had to figure out how to
Yeah.
make stuff.
Yeah, I just remember the year it finally like 1.0 came out or
Yeah.
whatever. I put it on my Game of the Year list, even though I hadn't played it in a couple of years, so it seemed really disingenuous. But that was the only time I could give it props.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank
That's
you guys
pretty
so
good.
much for your feedback. As always, we'd love to hear from you, everyone who listens to the show. If you have any thoughts or opinions or anything you'd like to add to any of our conversations we had tonight, please drop us a comment over at 4playernetwork.com on the post for this episode, and we'll read it at the beginning of the next episode. Doing so also enters you in the drawing for our monthly game giveaways. All right. Let's get started. I do want to say, too, in the second half, we usually normally do news, but instead this week we're going to have a kind of a retrospective discussion just about the PlayStation 1 in general, as a whole. I know they didn't come out in 98, but
You
it
mean
was...
the greatest system ever made?
Potentially, I think there's definitely an argument to be made for that. But, like, we're going to just talk about
Sorry,
the
it
system.
didn't have the division on it, Chris Davis. Calm down.
No, the PS2.
Oh, let's... Hey, we're going to...
Yeah, PS2 might be better.
The
Yeah,
library is
for
definitely
sure.
larger.
We're going to
Anyway,
have this
yeah, we'll
conversation.
talk
I think it's an
about it.
interesting conversation to have. We're going to talk about the PlayStation 1 because it was definitely kind of at the height of its popularity in 1998.
The original PlayStation.
The original PlayStation, yes. Sorry, the
PlayStation 1's different.
The PS1 is different,
Yes.
right? Not the PlayStation 1. Is
We're talking about the PlayStation.
the Sony PlayStation.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
People call it the PS1.
That's a PS.
Because there are now 4 PlayStations,
That's a
so you have to
PS
specify.
ONE.
Okay.
That is true. It is true.
The
Anyways.
PlayStation X. People did call it the PSX back
That is true.
before
PSX.
people knew there was going to be a 2.
Yeah.
It was just PSX,
Yeah.
which didn't even make sense.
Where did the X come from?
Yeah, I have no idea.
No, I thought that was a PSX.
PS1.
Well, PSX later was an actual thing,
Yes.
but people also referred to the PlayStation as the PSX back then.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I know,
we'll
like-
talk about that in the second half of the
Yeah.
show.
There's a lot to talk about. It's a great system. We'll kind of talk about the system and its legacy in the second segment, and then we'll read questions from our supporters on Patreon. But for now, let's talk about all the sweet games we've played so far in 1990. Sorry, sweet. Maybe not so sweet games we've played from 1998 months so far. Before we get too far into like some of the ones we have footage for and whatnot, why don't we just quickly recap some of the stuff we played last week for our multiplayer night?
What was that one fighter we played that had a really good art style? That looked like it came out in like 2004.
Rival Schools.
Yeah.
Dude, that game was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I think Rival Schools kind of stole the show for us.
Dude, that was pretty good.
It looked good.
Yeah,
Like,
even by
I-
today's standards. I
Yes,
feel
no,
like, it looked
like
pretty
even
good.
honestly, even by today's standards, I agree. It had a good art style, a good aesthetic. I liked the fighting moves. I liked the team ups you could do.
Yeah.
I like how they were very unique team ups for all the characters that felt good and like
And the nurse would
Just
give you
like
like
the-
a massage.
Yeah.
Dude, the whole like
liked
Give you
it.
extra life.
I like the whole like just kind of like the gist of like how everything works. Like it's like all the characters are like
Yeah, the
different.
baseball guy,
Yeah,
the
like-
soccer
the
dude.
school motif. Like,
Yeah.
it's
What
one
interesting.
of them was
and,
like a
cartoon.
teacher. Or
It's
something.
really
from the
unique.
late '90s where they were like
The principal?
robots, but there was like the
BattleBots.
baseball robot. and then-
BattleBots. No, not BattleBots.
No.
I know what you're talking about. Oh fuck! I know
God,
what you're talking
that
about.
was fucking good.
There was an anime, right? And there
Was it an anime?
Yes.
I saw it on TV as
Oh,
TV.
it wasn't called.
No,
No,
it-
BattleBots was the.
No,
fucking-
it was-
I know.
So
Hold on.
while we were playing,
Oh, I
this
know what you're talking
Metabots.
about. Metabots.
Metabots.
Yeah, and like the main character's robot had like it's like hexagons and
Yes.
had like little like guns on its head
Yes.
or something.
so
And they
while
go
we were
fight their
playing
robots.
these games last week, Brad was of course kind enough to
Wait,
do.
no, not
That one, right?
Metabots.
That one? That's the
see.
one I'm thinking of.
Brad.
No, not Metabots.
That's what I'm thinking. Metabots. Yeah. What are you thinking of?
The world may never know.
Yeah.
Rival
What's up, Nick?
Schools. During a multiplayer night, while we were playing some of these games, Brad was kind of giving a little history lesson on some of these things, and he mentioned, now that was pretty interesting, that Rival Schools was a Hideki Itsuno game, right?
Yes. Which he's the fucking dude, who did all the Devil May Cries after Kamiya moved on to Beautiful Joe, and he did Dragon's Dogma. But back in the day, he used to do fighting games, and this was one of them. He used to do fighting games for Capcom, and I think he also did Capcom vs. SNK.
So he did the original Devil May Cry?
No. He did Devil May Cry 2, 3, and
2,
4,
3, okay.
and 5.
God, okay, so I had it backwards, because...
Yeah, Kamiya
did Devil May Cry
Devil
1.
May Cry 1, yeah.
Which explains a lot, because Devil May Cry 1 and
Oh my
everything
God.
is a totally different type of game.
Is this the show you're thinking of? That looks horrible.
Cubics, no.
That
Robots
looks fucking
for
No,
horrible.
this looks fucking sick. No one knows what I'm talking about.
Because you made it up.
No.
Brad's
fucking
making shit up. Hey, let's talk about the multiplayer games,
Yeah.
Brad. You don't need to worry
So
about
yeah,
that.
so going back, I did really enjoy that. I thought it had really good backgrounds of being like the school aesthetic and stuff like that.
Wasn't the principal one of the players?
Yeah. You could, and like one of his like attacks was like scolding. I don't remember.
Did we
whatever.
ever figure out who the swimmer character was?
I don't think
No,
so.
I don't think we
I
found
think we were
her.
missing some characters.
Yeah, maybe.
Dude, but like the baseball guy had like that ridiculously huge bat.
Yeah.
Like, looked like a fucking heavy hitter. Like
I liked
don't
it.
know.
That was
yeah.
a
Did
good
Rival
one.
School ever
Let's
get
find
like
out.
a sequel or anything? Like on a more modern platform? Did it ever get
It
a
was
revival?
called Bots Master. It may have been the 80s.
Bots.
Oh,
man.
Jesus
Bots
Christ,
Master.
Holy God, Brad just dated
Fucking
himself.
Bots Master was sick. Metabots. Children.
God, Brad just dated himself.
Look up
hardcore.
Bots Master. This shit was sick.
Oh, I used to watch this in the 80s.
So someone tell me when that was on the air.
Holy God, Brad, did you...
No, it says the 90s. The intro to Bots Masters, I remember the intro was sick as fuck. It was like a rap or
Is there
something.
an S on the end?
It was so good. There was like a ninja bot, the baseball
Bots
bot.
Master.
Bots Master.
The
Oh,
Bots
it's fucking
Master.
sick.
The Bots Master.
Look at the details on this YouTube video. The intro to Bots Master, a brilliant cartoon from the 90s. I'm out.
Mic drop.
We also played Bushido Blade 2,
Bushido Blade.
which is not as good as Bushido Blade 1, but it's still okay.
I've never played Bushido Blade. I never knew Bushido Blade's thing was kind of like it was kind of like if you get one. So if you
one
get, like,
clean hit.
one clean hit and you win the match, right? I never knew that was kind of like the crux of that game. So I think that honestly was probably one of the highlights of the night.
That was another good game. I like that one. Yeah.
I
Dude,
thought that was
fucking
pretty
throwing
cool.
like pocket sand and shit at your opponent.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Rolling around.
Oh
It's
my
not
god,
quite
the
as
really
roll.
like that.
Yeah.
It's not quite as good. Although
It seems like you can kind of cheese it though.
Yeah, a little.
you unlock a dude with a gun eventually. You don't
That doesn't make any sense
because he's
at
like a
all.
boss. It was very
That's
like
pretty
Bushido
dope, though.
Blade is looked back on like with like this sort of like reverence, but it was never this really like deep balanced game. But it was just the idea of a fighting game where you could like kill someone in one blow was just so cool at the
all
time,
about
especially because you could like
form.
Why hasn't
disable
that happened
someone,
again?
and in the first game you could like hurt someone's legs and they'd be on the ground still trying to kill you, and they could, you know. Why did they never happen again?
That's a
Well,
really-
you know, that developer went down a really horrible like path afterwards, and no one ever did it again until Deadliest Warrior was kind of Bushido
Yeah, Deadliest
Blade-ish.
Warrior a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
forgot. Isn't that
Deadliest
the game
Warrior.
that Carlos was like
Me and
crazy?
Carlos, yeah,
you
we
and
used to
Carlos
play
were
that
crazy
a lot.
about
You can like
dive kick.
kill on
Dive
a
kick.
clean hit.
Manatee on fire in chat says
Yeah,
dive
that's a-
kick. That's a good.
Sort of, yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Similar,
Yeah.
but another one that we played the other night.
We played a lot of
multiplayer,
fighting
well,
games, I'll be honest.
the dancing game.
Oh,
that-
Bust a Groove.
Bust a Groove.
Oh my
I
God.
really fucking wanted to get that game working
Yeah.
well because I was really feeling it. It was fucking. I like the concept of it.
It's a hard game, but on an HD TV with the input lag,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah, I'll be honest,
impossible.
guys. I had no
That was rough.
idea how to play that game. I was trying so hard,
But
the, the input lag was.
But
Probably
Parappa
causing
the
my
Rapper
issues.
was like that back in the
Yes,
day too.
Parappa the
Like,
Rapper was challenging.
it
as
was
fuck.
very like narrow.
The window
like
in
the
which
window,
you would
yeah.
accept your input was very small. Yeah.
So on a modern TV, it almost makes it unplayable.
Yeah.
In fact, I can't get through Parappa the Rapper unless I'm just sort of like mashing out freestyle like raps.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I just try to actually do it on the beat, I can't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But Buster Groove, it's one I've always wanted to get good at, but I'm always terrible at music and rhythm games. But I remember playing the hell out of the demo back in the day. It was on one of the PSX discs.
We had some good times with the mini games and Ahir Geese.
Yeah.
okay, so that was weird.
Maybe the beach games.
I think
No,
that
the other one with the
running thing
The
was.
panels.
the panels
The-
was
the-
pretty good.
Oh, the
Fight
panels
race
was
and the
cool.
panels.
I liked the running.
That
the
one had
running
some
game.
emulation issues.
I think the running
Yeah,
game would have
for
been
sure.
better if we hadn't have been playing it with like 10 laps or whatever. That just caused it to go on for too
That was
long.
so goofy, but it was
Yeah.
fun. I had a good time with that. You know what? You know what the kind of like crushing defeat of that night was for me?
Yeah.
Vigilante 8, man.
I think what it is that car combat games
Well, so like
maybe don't hold up as well. At least not in split screen.
Well, here's
because
the thing:
it's so
like,
hard to see.
Vigilante 8 for me, growing like when I back in the night, like I used to play the game all the time. In fact, I probably played that game more than Twisted Metal. Like I loved Vigilante 8, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if maybe the game I spent most time playing was Vigilante 8 2: Second Offense.
You know what? I have a
mean
feeling that
Vigilante
if you went
16?
back to that, it would be a similar type thing.
It was kind of jank,
Look-
like in a
look,
hard way. Like I
These games in multiplayer were not why at least I played them. At least not Twisted
Yeah.
Metal. I played them to play through like the single player campaigns because
Yeah.
like you were fighting like multiple vehicles at a time. It wasn't these stupid one-on-one battles, and you were exploring the stages and unlocking secrets and like figuring out what parts of the environment to destroy and getting boss fights and then the stories at the end. That's why I play car combat games. Well, at least Twisted Metal, because of that stuff. And honestly, those old PS1 ones don't hold up as well as say like Twisted Metal Black does.
I mean, I'm gonna be on. Yeah, no, Twisted Metal Black's amazing. I feel like maybe just split screen stuff in general is really hard to go back to once
Oh,
you've
yeah.
been once
Oh,
you've
yeah.
Yeah,
been
agreed.
Absolutely.
away from it for so long.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
rough.
Oh yeah.
But still, I'm glad we busted it out and played it. What else did we try?
Tekken.
Tried some tech. We played the volleyball game in
yeah.
Tekken.
Volleyball.
Yeah.
It's such a cool mode, but I guess you have to love Tekken already to really understand why it's so cool. And
It's
you were
unfortunate we have
y'all were
good taste.
throwing the beach ball, and
Were we not supposed to throw the beach?
No,
you were doing
I knew
throw.
what was going on.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I was trying.
I spent an
you gotta
hour
get it,
unlocking
like,
that mode.
You got to get it over their head and like get it. It's like real volleyball. You can't let it touch the ground.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, whatever.
Even though you don't.
Wood
Fair
robot
enough.
man. What's the wood robot name?
Mokugen.
Mokugen.
He's cool because
Fucking Bay.
he's every round he switches his fighting style.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Am I forgetting any other?
There was a couple other ones, but nothing.
I'm
remember
really kind of sad
fondly.
you didn't pop in Duke Nukem.
It's not what you think it is.
I know, but like that's why I want you to pop it in. 'Cause I'm
But-
curious.
It's because I was thinking, well, it would be better to pop this in a single player,
Oh,
for a single player reason, not the multiplayer reason.
gotcha.
Which we would
Well,
do
someone
in a
should play that
different.
this month.
Yeah, I might.
Oh, okay.
It was going to be a part of Open Game Night
Well, we are still
in
planning
some
on
form.
we are still planning on doing another
Something.
like group streaming night
Yeah.
towards the end of the month. We're not sure exactly what it's going to be like conceptually, but we will have another night where we're all together in the room playing games from 1998. It's going to be fun. I think that's our second
It
to
might
last
be an
week.
Open Game Night. I feel like I have enough cool shit. I feel like the multiplayer stuff.
You know, my idea
Is a little more awkward.
If we're being open about some of our ideas, we've been talking about this for a little while. I thought it'd be cool to have like a show and tell night, like bring a game that you like from the year that like maybe you don't think anyone else in the room played or something, and like pop that in, talk about it or something. I don't know. We're gonna do some kind of themed group streaming night. I think that's our second to last Thursday night of the month. Why are you looking at me like that, Crispy?
No, I mean that's a cool idea, but like, I didn't play anything in '98 that you guys didn't play.
Might as well bring in my
I was
favorite
10.
phonograph.
You know,
I got to
like,
bring in my favorite phonograph for you.
yeah.
I mean, that's just, kind of similar to what Crispy was saying. I didn't actually start playing like
You didn't have to play the game in 1998. All I'm
I
saying.
didn't really go back and play. Whatever. Anyway,
You guys are killing me.
good.
We'll
Anyway.
come up with something.
Good.
Get ready for Rogue Squadron. Here it comes.
Wait, did that game come out?
It did. I have.
Yes, and it's
Oh,
fucking
shit.
dope.
I've never played that.
Shut the fuck up.
I
Nick.
have not.
God.
I've played Rogue Squadron.
Did you even own an N64?
Yes.
Nick.
Then what were you doing?
Nick.
I
I'll bring
played
it.
Rogue.
Let's do an Open Game Night.
I
I'll
played
You
the
bring
played
it.
one on
Rogue
I'll bring it.
Leader on GameCube.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, it's no longer good. You would not enjoy that game.
What?
These people have fond memories. That's fine.
Dude, whatever.
Why don't you like don't write it off before I have a chance to?
Whatever.
But they've made that type. They've made that game. You played the one on GameCube.
Yeah.
There's no reason to go back to the 64 one.
You're killing me.
I
Brad.
popped that in the
You're
other day.
fucking
It
killing
controls
me. You're
terribly.
You're killing the spirit, man. We gotta. I want to play some
See,
weird
this
shit.
is why show and tell night wouldn't work.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, were you gonna bring Rogue Squadron? I'm sorry.
That's what I said.
It's amazing.
We're gonna play some stuff second to last Thursday night of the month. It'll be interesting. Come hang out. We'll figure something out. It'll be good. All right. Who wants to go first? We got some stuff we've been playing on the feed this past week from the year 1998.
Actually, Nick, the game I'm going to talk about, I have not been playing on the feed.
Okay, you've been playing it off the feed, so why don't we
Yes.
start with you then?
Yeah, I very specifically wanted to choose a game or two that I was not going to stream, that I was just going to play on my own and talk about on this here podcast. The first game I chose is MediEvil, a game I never played back in the day.
I think I had this on my PlayStation 3, but I have not
I played the
it.
demo. But I never played the actual game, probably because, not really my style of game. This, at least back then, I thought it was more or less just a platformer. Now that I have played it, I've come to realize that this is not really a platformer, although there is some platforming.
I mean, this is practically a mascot. Well, I mean, it's not a mascot platformer, I guess.
Well, I mean,
It's a mascot game of sorts.
what makes it a mascot? Just because it's not a human?
Maybe. I don't know. Like back in the day when I was thinking of like PlayStation, like prominent PlayStation 1 characters that were created for the system that are unique to the system, my brain would almost immediately always go to MediEvil, even though I had never played it.
Really?
I feel like that was pretty unique that I had never played it, but it was still always front of mind for
Yeah.
top of mind for me when I would think about it. Anyways. Continue.
So yeah, this is very British style, like humor and presentation.
So it's not funny, or
It's man.
Damn it, Nolan.
Shame, though.
I'm wondering.
Shame.
Some PS1 footage. Well, this is actually an emulator. It's a little laggy.
Brad, stop focusing on the lag every time it happens. Just talk about the game.
So yeah, it's sort of like an action adventure game, but it's like level based. It almost have the structure of a platformer. It almost has the structure of a platformer where you're kind of going from level to level, but you actually kind of unlock different weapons and that will unlock different parts of like various items and stuff where you go back to previous stages to do things you couldn't do previously, almost kind of like Metroid style. But it is still very level based, like a platformer would be in that era. I guess like the reason people liked MediEvil back then was for maybe it's humor. It's not like a slapstick game or anything, but it does have a humorous edge to it, kind of like some dark humor.
I think it just has like a certain personality to it.
It was a personality thing. It was a style thing. It was an atmospheric thing. It's very kind of almost like kind of Tim Burton-y.
What even is like? Is he just a skeleton in a suit of armor?
He's a skeleton. He's a kind of a reincarnated.
He runs goofy.
Not reincarnated. A reanimated knight from the ages of old. He's back for like revenge.
What's his name? Like Edmund?
Sir.
His name's
Sir
MediEvil. His
Sir
name is
Daniel Fortescue. Daniel. Sir Daniel Fortescue, I believe, is his name. And
yep, that's Zero Skies in chat confirms.
Yeah, and I will say, in terms of like mechanics and stuff, like this game is a little bit of a disaster. The camera, especially, which you're not really gonna see here because this is kind of like almost like side-scrolling it, this part or whatever. But the camera's like all over the place in this game, like fucking all over the place in this game, and you'd think that you'd have. They do give you some control with like the shoulder buttons, but the camera moves so much like on its own so fast that you can't actually keep up with it. And there's a lot of portions of the levels where you can't move the camera, and you don't know until you hit the button. So you'll be like hitting that button, you're like, camera's not moving. Oh, there it goes. But it doesn't matter because you're moving and the camera's moving way faster than anything you could keep up with.
This is still very, very early in the
hold on.
3D.
That would definitely be making excuses for this game because there were absolutely 3D platformers and stuff at the time in 1998 that did not have these kinds of issues.
Who made this game, by the way?
Well, this is a Sony developed game. Well, this was Sony Cambridge made this game. It's a first party, and Sony Cambridge, which existed for a very long time until recently. When they started making VR games for Sony and they didn't sell well enough, and Sony decided to shut down one of their old legacy studios because they're assholes. But back then they were encouraging cool games from the studio. Experimentation, and so like there's sword combat in this game. You have all different kinds of weapons and stuff, and it feels like really kind of sloppy at first because you're just kind of swinging your sword and you're taking damage. And it wasn't. I was actually playing it today, and I sort of realized that I was just sort of doing it wrong. And I was sort of running up to enemies and whacking them with my sword, and I was taking so much damage, and I just thought it was really janky, bad hit detection. But then I realized
Was that a secret?
No, that's just progression. Here's the thing about games in the 90s. They're not all like, hand-holdy and linearly.
I thought that was cool. You smashed a coffin, and then
I know. Like that's the thing. Back then, level design was as such where the stuff that would seem like a secret now would actually just be figuring out how to progress in a level back then. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And there are lots of secrets in this stage. But hold on. So with the combat, what I realized is that don't run at an enemy. Like, run alongside it as you're swinging your sword. I was just taking damage every time I was touching the enemy. And I thought, well, I had to get close to hit them. No, I was always hitting them, but I was sort of trading that damage. And once I started to realize to kind of go alongside them as I was swinging my sword, I stopped taking damage, and I realized, okay, the hit detection is better than I thought. I was just doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to approach combat kind of like in those old school East games where you kind of have to be slightly off, or like Link to the Past or something.
Yeah.
And so the combat's fine. It's just everything moves so like quick, and it's a little rough around the edges. But I don't think people liked MediEvil for the combat or the mechanics or the camera. Obviously, they liked it because, you know, like I said, the atmosphere and the style,
The charm.
and it had a really good art style for a PlayStation 1 game back then, and the charm. But also, I think the level design is really cool here. I've played probably 6 or 7 levels by now, or more than that, probably like 10 levels, and every level is like completely different from the last. Like they all revolve around some sort of like hook or gimmick, and it's fun to kind of like figure that stuff out, especially because secrets are pretty hard to find.
Yeah.
But also every level has this thing called a chalice where if you obtain the chalice in that level, you get to go to the Hall of Heroes, where one of these hero statues will come to life, and it'll give you like a new weapon or like an upgrade to your life or whatnot. And kind of figuring out how to get the chalice in all of these stages is sort of one of the big secrets to each stage. And they start out simple, where you fill up that chalice by killing a certain amount of enemies, and once it's filled up, you can get it. But figuring out how to get to that chalice is not always so obvious.
Yeah. That's a creepy thing on the floor. What the fuck?
Yeah, it is a little creepy. And I gotta say, at first I was like really unsure about this thing, but the more I play it, the more I'm kind of warming up to its charms, even though stuff like the platforming, well, little platforming there is in this game is kind of horrifying, because you fall into like water or down a hole and you lose an entire like life vial.
Wow.
So right now I only have one. That's because I've been playing this on my Vita, and I've had to. I started from the beginning.
Oh, is this crossplay?
No. I started from the beginning on an emulator to capture footage for the podcast.
Oh, okay, I got it.
But I'm actually a lot further in my current playthrough on my Vita. But I couldn't capture my Vita.
Didn't they remake this game, or...
They did actually, but we'll probably, and they're actually going to remaster that all out like Crash, I guess.
Yeah.
They announced sometime earlier this year or last year. But I think that's actually a remastering of the PSP remake, which some MediEvil fans really don't like because of some of the changes they made. I will say, like, the big thing that I don't like about this game, in terms of more of a grand design thing, not in terms of mechanics or camera, is that when you start a new level, your life doesn't regenerate.
Oh, that sucks.
So it's very strange because it's very easy to lose life, especially when you're doing like platforming and stuff, because you know he moves like very quickly. Like you just move the stick in a direction, he'll like run off the edge. You got to be real careful, and that you lose a lot of life by falling into a pit. And you can get to the end of a level with like little to no life left, and when you get to the next level, you still have little to no life, and there's no easy way to like refill life. I mean, there's certain parts of the level where you can refill your life or like find items, but that's pretty rare, and you can have a really bad time at the start of a level if you're really low on life. And it's just a weird kind of design decision thing, especially because you're earning currency and stuff, and you come across these shops where you can buy arrows for your crossbow, or you can recharge your power sword or whatever, but you don't have an option to recharge your life. You got to find that stuff in the levels, so you got to be more careful than you would think with your health, or otherwise you can kind of end up in a really bad spot.
That's funny, because like watching this footage, I was like, the word careful is not what I would have used to describe the way you're playing in this game.
Well, yeah, because he's just so like bombastic. I mean, everything is just so moving so fast, and the camera's moving around. And
but you were saying, is that a symptom of this where you're playing it on like the PlayStation? Or does it do better on the Vita, or is it the same?
In terms of
is the platforming smoother, I guess, on the Vita at all?
No, I mean it's the same version. I mean, no, it runs fine on both. I mean, it's hard to tell here, obviously, because the capture is fucking up, but it runs smooth enough. It's just that the camera's so zoomed in and it's moving so quick, and you know the game can be kind of dark. It's just kind of hard to keep up sometimes, visually and control wise. Like here, I can completely eat shit on this boss, mostly because I wasted all my crossbow bolts. But yeah,
I've always wanted to play this game.
It's pretty cool. I'll probably keep going. I am excited about that remaster that's coming out for PS4.
They have officially announced that, right?
No, they did officially announce it.
I couldn't remember.
It was at E3. I think they showed the teaser.
I missed that.
People
That
figured
sounds
out,
right.
yeah, or maybe it was like Gamescom or something. But they definitely showed a trailer for the remaster.
Cool.
And, it should be pretty cool. I think I'm gonna keep going with this game but it's hard. Like, it's harder than you would imagine.
Hard as balls.
But I guess games from that area could be hard. You know,
Deputy
not everything was
Dangle-
Spyro the Dragon.
Deputy Dangle says the reveal was at PSX last year.
PSX last year.
Cool. Well, thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
Hey, Nolan.
What up,
I'm gonna
Nick?
throw it over to you for a minute. So, which one you want to talk about first? You got two.
How do y'all want this conversation?
Well, let's start
to
with
go?
start with let's start with Fallout.
All right.
Tell us about Fallout 2. You're a big Fallout fan.
I'm a huge Fallout fan.
Never played
I've
Fallout 2.
probably
though.
sunk in the series maybe 600 hours across all the games I've played.
Which would be
pretty-
3
pretty
New
good.
Vegas and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well as a little bit of 1 and a little bit of 2. But for this month, I started playing Fallout 2. Never played it before. Only played a little bit of the original Fallout. So
Which you were not super.
I was not having
not
a
a
good
fan.
time with it. I'll say that much. So this one seems to have improved on some of the issues I had with the original one. But it's not perfect.
Okay.
I had a lot of issues with combat early on. For instance, I fought this mole rat about like 10 times and it kept killing me.
The one that
and
we're
over.
watching right now.
Yep. And so it's just kind of like understanding how to approach certain things in combat, when to do things, understanding the mechanics. Obviously, compared to more modern Fallouts, when you try to go into your inventory during combat, it actually takes up your action points. I mean, because this game is definitely more old school RPG in that everything you do, you have to have an action point to do this. You know, your
Even
armor
going into a menu?
during combat. Yes.
During combat, okay.
It costs 4 action points to go into your inventory. Out of the 10 you have, granted those numbers can change based on like skills you get.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
VATS in the newer ones was sort of
Correct.
supposed to be like a throwback
Yes.
to this, even though, you know, like a nod to the old school fan.
But you know, the armor class plays a bigger role in this. Defense and rolls. You know, percentage chance to hit. Every time you attack something, you have a percentage chance to hit it. It's not like it's like Brad was saying, similar to VATS. It's like that. Whereas like in a more in like Fallout 4 or something, if you swing your bat at you're gonna hit them. But in this, it's a percentage chance. And I was actually getting very frustrated with that because I was actually running into scenarios where I would have like an 80% chance to hit something and I would miss like 5 times in a row. And that
literally sounds like my experience with XCOM.
And that's just so frustrating when it's like, why is this not fucking landing? Like, what the fuck are these rolls? Some of the other issues I'm having is like sometimes I'll have difficulty clicking on things. You have to be very like fucking pixel precise. Like if you're trying to interact with the ladder, you can't interact with the rungs between the ladder. That doesn't count. That hits the wall behind the ladder. You have to fucking, and like if you saw on that last screen, the ladder's kind of small, and you have to there's like 3 pixels you can interact with, and that can be frustrating sometimes when like there's actually maybe even in this footage, I'm trying to pick up an item and I just fucking can't because I can't find the right pixel that my mouse needs to be on to interact with it.
That's weird.
Cute little mole ratty.
Yeah, this guy I don't have any problems with. Don't like. I've been enjoying some of the aspects of this game. I like. There's one of the honestly the simplest things is when you've kind of done enough in a dungeon and you've decided, hey, I'm either want to run back and make sure I didn't miss anything, or I'm gonna run to the other side, whatever. Just the ability to I can enter a floor, scroll like the camera over to the ladder to exit that floor, right click and interact, and my character will just run all the way through, which compared to like a more modern Fallout where you physically have to move the character through that world, that's kind of nice. But I mean I do have problems with the isometric view just because a lot of things is hidden behind walls, and sometimes it can be hard to see. Like, you know, they have that little circle of vision.
It's weird. It's like a bubble around the character, right?
That
when
bubble
you walk
needs to
behind
be
walls.
about 10 times bigger than it is, because it gets very frustrating when like I've missed many things that I've only maybe I went back and saw, oh, there was a fucking chest in that room I never even saw because my character didn't get close enough. And I mean, I think that's just a product of the game at the time, but like I really wish people would maybe mod this game to kind of change that a little bit.
I mean,
There might be a mod out there
Yeah.
that the thing is, I kind of went into this wanting to do no mods and just like kind of classic.
Have that
Yeah.
classic
Fallout
98
too. Yeah.
Understandable for sure.
I ended up I did install an unofficial patch because I was running into some fucking issues.
Yeah.
And that unofficial patch thankfully fixed a couple of those.
Is it how much of your time was spent like in like a dungeon per se versus like towns and stuff? Have you gotten any companions or anything?
So no, so I'm maybe 5-6 hours into this game. I've spent a decent amount of time in towns, interacting with people, talking with them, bartering, kind of stuff like that. I have not found any companions though. I'm still fairly early in this game. I've only been to maybe like 3 towns and like 2 dungeons. Compared to the first game, the first game, and I think it was there's you have to get the water chip in the first game.
Yeah.
And you literally are under a ticking clock. Don't get me wrong, it's a fairly long ticking clock, but the fact that resting to regain, unlike in more modern, unlike in more modern Fallouts, and you find a bed, you sleep in it, you're healed, you're good to go. This, you can't sleep in any random bed. You can wait to pass time to heal yourself, but to heal my 37 HP, it takes like 3 days of in-game time, or I just like stand there as like the time clicks and my player slowly regains health. To use a skill book to learn a skill, it takes like time passes. Like everything causes quote time to pass. Thankfully, in this, it's nowhere near as big of a deal as in the first game.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've probably gone in like the 6 hour I played this game. I've probably gone through over a month already of like in-game time, just because often I find myself, oh shit, I need health. I can't just go sleep in a bed for fucking 4 hours. I have to like stand here and wait for like 36 hours to heal myself.
Yeah, so I was kind of curious. I've never played any of the older. Like I obviously started with Fallout 3, so I wasn't sure how much DNA those like the old Fallout and the new Fallout.
The jump from
share.
2 to 3 is kind of fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, that was a long.
I know, I
Time,
understand. 98 to 2008.
It was also
is a
different
long
developer.
time. 10 years. I understand. I'm just saying.
Who developed the original Fallouts?
I mean, Interplay.
Interplay.
Yeah. Does it have like that same kind of like old school, or not old school, like old timey like charm?
No,
like,
so that's definitely all still there. I
Yeah.
mean, like everything, like conceptually about these games is the same. You're interacting with like Nuka-Cola machines, and you're fighting mole rats.
Wearing
and
a vault
geckos.
suit, aren't you?
Yeah, you come out. You were in a vault, and you come out of that vault, and you have vault tech armor, and all of that. The core point of Fallout, the core like concept is all still there. You're in this game, you're a vault survivor. You're going out to I don't even remember the story now. I can't remember.
Shadow Sonata's got a nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going out. You have a mission. You're trying to do it. I mean, all of the stats are the same. The way you kind of build your character around the special meters and specializing in certain skills and getting certain bonuses.
Are there perks?
Yes, there are perks. Okay. Every other level, you get a new perk that you can choose from a list. All of that stuff is still there. It's just for me, I found a lot of my time is spent right-clicking and seeing if I can interact with something.
Yeah.
Because I haven't figured out. There's a certain subset of things.
It's definitely a different pace.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. There's definitely like here. This is a prime example. I'm going to scroll to the exit, interact with it, and then my character's now just going to start running. And I just can kind of wait for them to get there, which I really like.
You don't have much experience with like isometric RPGs in general, right?
Not particularly.
Because a lot of these things are just the fucking era of isometric
Brad,
RPGs. Like if you played like Baldur's
Brad,
Gate
when this game came out, I was fucking coloring in coloring books.
Well,
like I wasn't like I honestly I was kind of young. I wasn't playing these style of games. What's up, Crispy?
It's kind of interesting thinking about like these kind of CRPGs, like Brad was saying, Baldur's Gate, and this one, like, they are still very much like steeped in the tabletop traditions.
Oh no, very
they were
much
adapted from.
Very much.
But like being computer games and being these like curated written experiences for like a single player, that there are certain aspects of like storytelling and narrative that you can't really get into like you could with a tabletop RPG. So like my opinion of these games has always been like they're really fun, they're really cool, especially for like exploring the mechanics of a certain RPG system, but like you kind of lose some of the just like out of control potential and you keep a lot of the like rigid, stuffy mechanics.
Sure.
you know?
And it's not just that. Like a lot of the tabletop RPGs, when you start out, you are like very weak.
Oh no,
Yeah.
you're weak as fuck.
And
Like I said,
and
it
it feels
like your
just
first
like
3 to
not
5
it
good
took
to
me
play.
like 30 minutes to beat a fucking mole rat.
Yeah, it just
Well,
feels
especially
not
when you're
good.
talking about like Baldur's Gate and like the old
Yeah, exactly.
Thaco like 2.0 and
Like in that
advanced D&D
instance,
systems
I
where
had
like the first 5 levels are just you're gonna die.
I had fucking brass knuckles, and I'm punching a mole rat, doing like 2 to 5 damage every hit. Whereas when he attacks me, he does like 7 to 8 damage.
Yeah.
But I will say, compared to some other newer games, this has maybe about 10 times as much voice acting as fucking Ni no Kuni 2 does, which is kind of ridiculous.
So does everything I've been playing.
Well,
in
yeah, I
that
know.
game.
It's just funny that like so many characters I interact with are fully fucking voice acted, and it's pretty decent. I mean,
I
decent
wonder
quality.
if there were like fewer voice actor unions back then or something. If it was just
possible, yeah.
easier to hire voice
How
actors.
does something like Fallout 2 compare to like Wasteland 2, which just came out fairly recently?
Well, Wasteland 2 has. I mean,
Like, is Wasteland 2
Wasteland was the spiritual predecessor to the first Fallout. Like the original Wasteland is even fucking older than these games.
No, I thought the first Fallout was the predecessor to Wasteland.
No, came after
no.
Wasteland.
The
now-
successor. Yeah,
now,
you're right,
Wasteland
you're right.
2 was the more recent one, which had
They all
people
came
who
from
I guess
Wasteland.
worked at Black Isle back then, or at least working on Wasteland back in the day. But it's funny because so when Black Isle I guess got shut down, like those people kind of you had some people forming Obsidian,
Yeah.
which is making like Pillars of Eternity now. Those were like Fallout people, and then you had Troika, which made no, they made like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines and
yeah.
Arcanum and stuff, which is
All the World of Darkness.
yeah.
shit.
So all the
Like,
people that made these, they're still like making these fucking.
Yeah.
Well, Troika doesn't exist anymore, but yeah. So I mean, if you want to kind of see that modern DNA, you got not just Wasteland, but obviously all the stuff Obsidian's been working on, like Pillars of Eternity. So you could still. So that's what's cool about stuff like Pillars and Divinity is you're getting
they're still pretty,
this era of games, like the
Yeah.
good qualities of this era, with
some, like,
with all the
quality of
shit
life
kind of ironed out.
improvement.
You know what I mean? So even though you're struggling here, I might still recommend something like Wasteland 2.
And
Yeah.
dude, I played Wasteland 2. I found that game
Or even-
extremely boring.
Oh,
But no,
Well, like-
honestly, I'm enjoying this more than I enjoyed the Wasteland 2. It's just more of a I'm still it's one of those situations where if you don't 100% know the controls, it can be kind of frustrating just because the game doesn't do a very good job of teaching you, modern games we take for granted how well they slowly teach you how to
How good they've gotten at like
okay, press A to
Trickling
do
out the-
this. Go over here, press this to like this game doesn't give you any of that. If you press like F1, it brings up just like one of those fucking screens. It's like here's a list of every fucking control there is. I can't memorize that. I'm like, wait, what do I do? Like what? Like I'm constantly having to go refer back to that because it doesn't slowly teach you the mechanics.
Yeah, but when you bought these games back in the day,
It came with
They
like a
had, like, a
fucking piece
they
of
become
paper.
like huge
Yeah.
guides.
Yeah.
Or fold out laminated things with all the controls and stuff on it.
Or
Like,
some of them were based on actual tabletop systems that they like expected you already knew.
Yeah.
The first time, Carlos mentions it right here. I didn't realize that when you were bartering with someone, you had to go into their inventory and pull caps out of their inventory onto the barter screen.
God.
So I literally gave away it was like 80 caps worth of stuff. It wasn't a whole lot.
Oh, because you didn't like
yes.
specifically ask
Because
that they pay for
I was
it?
like, hey, I'd like to barter. I would like to give you 80 caps worth of shit for nothing in return. And they were like, yeah, okay. And so they just
they're
took
like
it.
deal.
whatever, idiot.
So yeah, like you'll see me in this footage. I had to go into their inventory, grab their caps, pull them into the like deal or whatever because I was selling them something. But yeah, so I mean, it's,
awkward interfaces were this era of CRPGs.
but once again, it's just the game didn't teach me that, and it's not something that I kind of figured out on my own. It is a little clunky.
you could argue that Fallout is still struggling with usable
Oh
interfaces.
yeah, that is true. But don't like I said. Don't get me
could
wrong.
argue
I think the game. I think one of the real reasons I was kind of down on this was just because I was running into several. Like first of all, the combat was frustrating, and I know it'll get better over time. I don't know if I built my character correctly. I know it's a Fallout game. So
What kind of character did you make?
I specialized in fucking like unarmed because like someone was telling me like early on that's really good, or like melee or something. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could always fucking like open up some editor and modify my character if I really need to. But I mean, honestly, like any Fallout game, it doesn't really matter what you do. It's a fucking RPG. Like your character is still like gonna be okay. It's not like you're gonna be completely fucking borked or something. Like I specialized in small guns. If you specialize in small guns in any Fallout game, you're fine. Like 90% of the guns you end up using are small guns. Like fucking handguns and rifles are small guns. As long as it's not like a fucking LMG or some shit, like you're probably gonna be okay. So I mean, I understand that it's just mainly just because I'm early on that I'm having troubles. And I was running into, if chat remembers the other day, the game kept crashing. I finally figured out why it was crashing. I was able to fix it actually right before I recorded this footage, so I got that going. So I do want to play more of it. Cool. But yeah, it was giving me some struggles getting going.
For sure.
And it's also another scenario where it's kind of the confusion of similar to any kind of old school RPG where they just drop you in the world and they're like, go. Yeah. And you're like, what the fuck do I do?
That can be like
what do I like? What do I spend 30 hours in this small town trying to figure something out?
Conceptually, that sounds cool, but then when it actually happens, you're just like, oh,
like,
fuck.
Don't get me wrong, and I think it just might be a symptom of the time. But sometimes I'm like, just tell me what the fuck to do, man.
Give me
like,
some direction.
Like, tell me to go to this town and talk to this guy, just so I can get the fucking ball rolling.
This was 20 years ago, but even at the time, these were like the hardcore games.
No, I understand. I understand.
So yeah, I mean, it should be intense.
Don't get me wrong. Honestly, there's about 3 minutes and 45 seconds more footage that doesn't get cut off here because it's me fighting this fucking creature for over 4 minutes.
You mean this mole rat?
This mole rat.
It
took me over 4 minutes to defeat this guy in combat. Man. I was fucking just so
Don't
frustrated.
take it for granted when you can just target a mole rat with VATS and blow its head off in 2 seconds flat and move on. But you've been having less trouble with your other game.
Do we want to do that one next, or does someone else want to talk about it?
Well, here, I'll talk... all right.
Talk about Resi.
I'll talk about Resi too. Because Brad, I don't know, how long ago was that we did our mini project, Tim?
I think it was last year.
Last year, we did a little race through Resident Evil 2. Yeah. I am in the midst of obviously doing my Resident Evil series run in preparation for the remake of this game, which comes out in January. And it just so happened to work out perfectly. I finished Resident Evil 1 remake like a week and a half ago, right before 1998 month started. And the next game in the series, of course, is Resident Evil 2. So I sat down on Sunday, this past Sunday, and I streamed the game from start to finish, both scenarios. I did scenario A as Claire and scenario B as Leon, which is apparently the what's the word I'm looking for? Like that
canon.
Thank you. It's like the canon way to do it. I was originally intending to do it the other way around, but I fucked it up. But that's neither here nor there. This game is so damn good. I had forgot. Like
I didn't want to tell you, but I played off the feed, and I beat you again.
Okay, Brad.
Go ahead.
Did you just make that up, Brad?
Yes, he did.
First of all, I had people watching me while I was streaming this, and a lot of them were like, "You're going like this isn't." They're giving me shit for not going faster, and I obviously wanted to do it all in a day, but I never went into this with the intention of like trying to like speed run this game. Yeah. Because I enjoy this series so much, I just literally wanted to play it again. Yeah. And I'm surprisingly like, so you play through this game this game was pretty unique and ambitious as far as sequels go, because it had 2 different discs. Each disc pertained to a different character, and there are actually, like, when you sit down to think about it, there are a lot of different events that happen throughout the story. The story kind of plays out the same regardless of which character you play as, but so say you play scenario A as Claire, and an event happens, she meets a particular character, and something happens to that character, which kind of dictates the way her game plays out. If you play as Leon, the same thing happens, but to a different character. And when you get through the whole thing, and you think about like, because the way the scenarios play off each other too is like, you do something as Claire, in scenario A, when you run through to scenario B as Leon, you're playing a different series of events, but like she does things that affect his game. And there are certain times where they kind of fuck that up, like they don't make sense, like. You could tell how they were trying to like line these up perfectly, like so that it would make sense that these things were happening simultaneously, but at different parts of the world. But like they kind of fuck it up on several different occasions. But like when you get right down to it, depending on which character you play as first, there's like 4 different ways to play through this game, and like events can play out pretty dramatically different. Does that make any sense?
No,
Crispy's
I'm a little. Well, partly it's because I can't see you. But I'm a little confused what you mean by like these events not lining up. Could you give me an example?
So when the game starts, right?
Yeah.
You're in a car together, and the car crashes. If you play as Claire, you get out one side of the because there's a big explosion, and they jump out either side of the car, right? So they end up on different sides of the wreck. So you have to run in 2 different directions. So from that point forward in the game, you're experiencing. They're playing simultaneously, but they're going at it from different sides.
It's all happening concurrently.
But they're coming at it from different sides. So while she's exploring one part of the police station, he's exploring the other side. Occasionally their paths cross, but then they end up going separate ways and doing different things. But the weird thing is that like sometimes they run across puzzles. Like there are some scenarios like the biggest one in this game is when you unlock the armory in the basement.
Yeah.
You find 2 different items, and you can either take both of them with you. One is I think one is a submachine gun, and one is a extra inventory, two extra inventory. It's like a bag, gives you 2 extra inventory slots. You can take both of them for yourself, and that makes your playthrough even easier.
But then they're
or
not there for the
you could
other
leave
character.
one of them because Leon's going to pick that up in his game.
Yeah.
Or you can leave both. However you want to do it, it doesn't matter because when you go through this in the second scenario, that's going to benefit the other character. But there are also scenarios where like you do a puzzle as Claire and then you come across that same puzzle as Leon and you have to do it all over again. Or but then there are other scenarios like you fight that big crocodile. There's a big crocodile in the game, right? And you kill it as one character.
And then you have to fight it again?
You don't, though. You come across it, and you don't have to fight it again. You share take care of it. So some scenarios where they made it work, and some where they didn't. It's like it's not a.
The execution
it's kind
is
of a
weird,
mess.
but it was a cool idea.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea, and honestly, like one of the things I'm really excited about with the remake they're doing is I'm wanting to see if maybe they like because they've already confirmed they're doing the same thing with 2 different scenarios. You can play as 2 different characters. I'm wondering if they're going to kind of dedicate themselves to like ironing those out a little bit and making them actually more.
I mean, that doesn't even really sound as egregious as
it really
I was
isn't.
thinking when you were saying it.
And you know, I was a little nervous at first because I'm not a speedrunner. I never play games to try and go through as fast as I can. That's why when I usually do a race, I usually lose the race.
Should I?
Okay, Nick.
Yeah,
Should I
That's
play,
the reason.
you're definitely competing.
Nick, should I play this version of the game first, or should I wait for remake?
Well, they're two
trying to set
different
me up
games.
for speed. I mean, here's the thing. I think it's actually really cool because like it's.
This
Now
is
that
not
I've-
like the Resident Evil 1 remake. They're 2 different games.
There are 2 different, very, very different approaches to doing a remake, but having played Resident Evil 2 remake for about 20 minutes or so, you can already see how they are taking what's very familiar and changing it, but they're still incorporating like you meet the same characters, and you go to the same places that are very identifiable, but they're organized a little bit differently, and you end up moving through the story and by going through different places first and that kind of thing. But like playing through this again, especially back to back with the 2 different scenarios, now that I've kind of seen how both stories play out like back to back, there's like a lot of aspects of this game that I'm really curious to see how they're going to handle in the remake. Like certain characters that are just like you could tell they were trying to make really creepy in this game, and they do to some degree, but like I can't imagine how creepy it's going to be and how interesting it's going to be when you see certain characters like reimagined for the remake. Like the chief of police in this game is so fucking creepy. But like now I'm trying to picture how he's going to like what role he's going to play in the remake.
Sure.
He's a fucking bizarre character. And the crocodile, like I think like they've already talked about how that's going to be in the game. So
Didn't they almost like not put him in?
yeah, I think they talked about how like they were trying to find a way to include him, and like they couldn't figure it out, but they finally cracked it. So like, it seems like they're trying to stay pretty true to this game. And this game,
Well, I'm gonna watch the movie to get excited for it.
you're killing me. I did buy those movies, by the way. People in chat were
Why?
like, "Nick, you gotta watch the not the live action ones,
Oh,
the animated ones. They're actually like canon, right?
Even
I know. I didn't really want to, but people were like, you gotta watch them, Nick. So I was like, you know what? In the spirit of the series run I'm doing, fuck it, I'm gonna watch them.
damn.
I did. I listened to chat. I might regret that. But anyways, I was kind of worried because I played through this scenario. I started at noon and I finished the first one at like 6:30, and I was like, oh shit.
Whoa.
It's a Sunday. I do need to go to work tomorrow. I'm like worried the second, like I basically feel like I have to kind of start the game all over again. But I was really surprised at how much the second scenario feels
quicker.
unique and it moves a lot quicker. You start, like, once you're in that point, you already kind of have a good feel for how the game controls. By the way, playing this game with an analog stick, whew, so much better than playing with a D-pad. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's still tank controls, though.
It is still tank controls, but you can actually, like, there's a lot of scenarios where you have to, like, dodge and weave around zombies because they're, like, kind of spread out, and like, every time I would go through there's, like, some hallways I would get caught, like, every time. But now that I'm using an analog stick, I can just kind of, like, weave through them without trouble. So, that was nice. But also, I will say it was really cool seeing. I don't play Scenario B very often, but Scenario B, they introduced this tyrant character called Mr. X, right? Mr. X, where they drop him through the ceiling of the police station, and he chases you around. Like, he appears in random places, kind of like the Nemesis. So I was like, this is like the natural precursor. Like, this was like probably what gave them the idea to make Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which takes that concept and like takes it even further. So this game was great. The second scenario I finished it in like 4 hours or something like that. So
Hideki Kamiya's directorial debut.
that's right. Yeah. And this game still holds up like remarkably well. It was an 11.5-hour long stream, but I enjoyed every second of it. And I wasn't even really tired of playing it by the time it was done. I was like, this game still holds up remarkably well.
Technically, Kamiya's directorial debut is Resident Evil 1.5, which they ended up scrapping. It was kind of a troubled development.
Wait, why would he?
And he goes to Mikami and he's like, dude, I need help here. He was struggling back, making his first game back then.
Yeah. Well, this game turned out really great. This game is still one of my favorites in the series. I love it. And obviously, I'm going to continue my series run. It's 1998 month right now, so I can't play any more Resident Evil because no more Resident Evil came out this year, or that year. But next month, I'm going to be jumping on Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which should be fun. That game always makes me really nervous. Gives me the sweats.
You know, hey, real quick, for my horror night last Saturday, I played several things, but one of them was this Resident Evil clone called Deep Fear for the Sega Saturn, which I believe was like a Sega developed Resident Evil, like attempt at like Resident Evil, and I didn't get any footage, but
is that the game with the monkey on the calendar?
Yeah,
was he in the game?
Yeah, he was in the game.
Cool. So I got the right game.
But so like the thing about Deep Fear though is it takes place kind of like on the ocean floor in like a underwater kind of like oil rig type thing, and also like a submarine and stuff. And there's like the air in the atmosphere that you're constantly like recharging via these panels on the wall, and also your kind of personal air, and you have like a rebreather, and it's all about. It kind of reminds me of like kind of the Dark Zone and like Metroid Prime 2, where it's this thing you constantly have to worry about as you're just sort of doing other things in this Resident Evil like game, including like combat and solving puzzles and stuff, and you're like running out of air, and it just seems like a really cool idea. It's a little clunky to play, but they were doing some things at the time that were really cool, like you can move, not just move and shoot, but you can full on sprint with your gun out and shoot as you're sprinting, even though this is still kind of a tank control Resident Evil style game.
Wait, what platform is this on?
Sega Saturn.
Sega Saturn. You know, I've never owned a Sega Saturn.
Neither did I.
I mean, a lot of people didn't own a Sega Saturn. There's a reason Sega doesn't exist anymore, and it started with the trouble of the Saturn. So like it does some things that are kind of surprisingly cool, even though it's a little clunky, and the voice acting is so bad it makes Resident Evil's voice acting seem good.
Yeah. But by the way, I will say this: the voice acting in Resident Evil 2, while still bad,
it's better.
It is still like.
Yeah.
Shockingly better than Resident Evil 1.
It's more still the localization that was a little rough, like the writing and stuff.
And it's funny, certain characters are voiced much better. Like Marvin, the police officer you meet at the beginning of that game, like his delivery of his lines is like way better than I expected.
Oh yeah.
Especially after like certain lines from like even Claire has some real like holy shit.
Resident Evil 2 was my favorite until. I guess Remake I like better than 2. And
I think Remake is still like
Force the King.
I think Remake is one of the best games in the series, if not one of the best horror games ever made. I think But like as far as classic Resident Evil goes, I think 2 is still.
Yeah.
I like 2 more than 1 and 3 in Veronica.
Yeah, I am looking forward to playing 3. Gaming Rich in chat asked if I'm going to poop socket like I did 2, and I might do it. I actually really enjoy just sitting down for a day and knocking that out. And not to mention Resident Evil 3 doesn't have multiple scenarios, so I could just play it in one go.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we need to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about Suikoden 2 with Nolan. Suikoden 2. And we're going to do a retrospective kind of discussion about the PlayStation 1 in general, which was kind of in the middle of its... 1998 was kind of its heyday. It was kind of at the peak of its success there. So we'll talk about that system as a whole, which we might do a few of these kind of like retrospective conversations over the course of the podcast.
Next week, the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, so... Anyway, if you're listening to us live or watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this short break. You know what? I'm going to start right there. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We still have a few things to talk about. I want to turn it over to Nolan real quick. He's got one more game that he's been playing. Why are you holding your PS1? You're holding your PlayStation 1 like you're playing it.
Well, no, this is not how you hold a PlayStation 1 to play.
Like you're looking at it like it's a screen.
No, I was reading the back of it just because I don't think I've ever actually like sat down and read. Like, there's a lot of fucking words on this thing. But anyway,
you don't sit down and read your consoles?
Not often. Suikoden 2.
Suikoden?
I did play a little bit of the original Suikoden for 1996 month.
Yeah.
And I didn't really... It's not that I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy my time with it. But I never kind of continued on with it. And I think it was because I was running it on an emulator. Mm-hmm. And nothing against emulators, but sometimes I just find they can be finicky.
Yeah.
And they have issues.
Sure, yeah.
And even when I was trying to originally set up this one, I was running into a lot of issues with it. And it's just like, I'm reading through forums just being like, how the fuck do I set up this game to run well? And so finally Brad was like, hey, it's on PlayStation, right? And I was like, what? Yeah. So I fucking just downloaded it, playing on my PS3. So that's what this is. It's playing on my PS3.
Nice.
Runs really well, and had no issues with emulation or anything like that, which has been nice. But yeah, so I'm not super far into the game, but I will say so far I am enjoying the story. The game looks fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
It plays really well. I like the combat.
Look at that sweet dual attack.
Yeah, the unite moves. Are those just... So Brad, you've played Suikoden.
Yeah.
Are those just like, you just do as many of those as you want?
Yeah, but there's usually like trade-offs now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if early on the main character and Joey have like, or I always call him Joey back in the day. Some people call him Joey.
I think I was pronouncing
theirs
it
is like very
Joey.
overpowered, but it's kind of, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but
okay,
but like
that doesn't last.
It doesn't last.
Okay, that's fine.
There's usually like trails, like if you use the one for Bolgan in the
Bolgan
Two Sisters,
gets like unbalanced or whatever after the move or something like that for a turn.
You'll see like little trade-offs like that. But yeah, Unite moves tend to be more powerful, and that encourages getting all the different characters, all the 108 stars of destiny, because that one character's cool, but if I go now and get the characters that might be related to this character, they might have like a cool Unite attack, and it kind of drives that urge to like find all the different characters and stuff. Like in
how many different characters are in Suikoden?
Well, this one is
108 stars of destiny in all of them, but they differ from game to game. Some of them are the same from game to game because some characters have true runes.
Is it the case, Brad, that any character I talk to that has a name and a picture is a collectible character? Is like a character you can get
that or related to the story.
Okay, because
even
like in this town,
90% of the time, yeah.
Even in this town, I ran into a couple of characters that have like a name and like a picture, and
you'll see like shopkeepers and stuff. And so like the big hook of any Suikoden game is you obviously didn't get to the first game, and you haven't gotten to it here yet. It is when you obtain your own like homestead, which is like a castle or whatnot.
I did get there in the first game.
Yeah. And as you collect all these different like characters, they just fill out your home, your castle, and like you're recruiting shopkeepers to become shopkeepers at your castle. And not everyone is like a battle party member. I'd say maybe only half of them can actually participate in battle. But like as you play these games and you fill out your home, like that is like you get such
They're
an
still contributing in
amazing
different ways.
feeling of progression that you don't really get in any other kind of RPG, and it's so fucking rad.
I think they tried to do something like that in Ni no Kuni 2.
Yeah,
but
it's
the feeling
not-
isn't
no,
the same. It's not.
no,
It's
no.
not quite there. I
more
mean,
dark, though.
it's definitely a similar concept because you interact with someone in the world. You do a side mission for them. They're like, oh, help me with this, blah, blah, blah. You go do that for them. You go back and talk to them like, hey, I did it. Do you want to come join my town?
Yeah,
That's how it works in Ni no Kuni, but it just doesn't feel
it's
the same.
similar, but it's so much richer here.
And it definitely seems like it is. So, like, this character, I'm assuming, is probably going to be a character I can collect.
Yeah, and,
Like-
and it's all about kind of figuring out how to get these
Yeah.
characters.
And I, like you said, I guess I'm just not there yet. The reason this footage is not going to be super exciting because where I left off when I was casting this the other day was I encountered a boss, and the boss like fucking destroyed me.
yeah, I saw a little bit this monster.
Yeah, and so I'm like, you know what? Let me go maybe explore a little bit more. Maybe I don't have to do
You
this.
might have to grind a little bit, but the thing about Suikoden is you get to an area where it's not like you're not. I mean, auto battle actually goes really quick because
Sure.
all your dudes start attacking at like kind of the same time
Yeah.
and stuff. So you can just kind of
And so yeah,
Autopilot.
so that's what I did was as soon as I kind of had trouble with that boss, I was like, all right, let me take a step back, let me kind of explore because I didn't explore. Like the game was like, hey, go to this mountain and do this thing, and I immediately did it.
Yeah.
And so now I've gone and explored, and through actually this footage is me exploring this entire area and finding out that there's actually not really anything else for me to do. But in that time, I fought a lot of battles, and I think I leveled up once, twice, maybe even 3 times. So I do feel a little more like I'm assuming this is
That's a part. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like you immediately this character's like you look like an RPG party.
you
kid.
look
Yeah.
special.
Party member.
It's kind of like in the anime where you see a classroom and in the back the one kid has big purple like spiky hair or
Yeah.
something. It's like
Everyone
clearly
else
that's
looks
someone.
generic.
Yeah.
Very
But yeah. So I have, like I said, I've been enjoying the combat. The music's really good. The story is not too intense yet, but I guess I am still fairly early on.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's this conflict between the kind of the city and like the people, the ruling government, has turned you're a member of the army, you have an alliance and they turn against you and blah 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 whatever.
Luca Blade.
Yeah. And so I've been enjoying that.
Watching this footage.
Huh?
God, I fucking miss RPGs like this.
Dude, that's why I wanted to play this. As soon
Like
as we
with
were
the-
like
with the- with the-
1998 month, I was like, I want to play
like
an
the
old school
top-down,
RPG.
like overworld map, like sprites walking around this like giant map, everything's disproportionate. Then you walk into a town and you talk.
Yeah.
It's just so. I mean, that's the one thing that's kind of like keeping me interested in like Ni no Kuni 2, just because it tries to kind of capture some of those like older school.
But I mean,
like,
this
presentations.
exists. You could just play this too.
I know.
Like
I know.
if you stick with this game, I'll be so fucking happy.
No, I plan on it. Honestly, yeah, if I were to pull out my backlog of games, this game is on it. I've been always meaning to play this, and I'm glad I'm finally kind of getting a chance. I don't think I'm going to put this one down. I mean, I say that. It depends. There's a lot of fucking new games coming out I need to play. But I am definitely thoroughly enjoying this one.
Cool.
I hope you at least get to your castle. In this
How many hours do you think that is in?
you're gonna stream this at least one more time. Or a
Yeah,
couple
at
more
least
times?
once. More,
Okay.
maybe twice more, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'll get to it.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, now, like I mentioned at the start of the show, we would normally do news, and there's been a lot of news in the second segment. But because it's 1998 month, we're going to instead focus on doing a kind of a retrospective discussion on a console, and we're probably going to do this for each of the podcasts we do during this month. Instead of news, we're going to talk about a console that was prominent during the 90s. And kind of its legacy and our personal anecdotes, memories, or whatever having to do with the console. I do want to say this, like I said earlier on, there's been a lot of big news, a lot of stuff worth discussing, a lot of the Red Dead stuff, some Capcom stuff. There's a lot of stuff happening right now, and we are going to talk about that stuff. But we're gonna relegate that to a 4Player Plus, a bonus podcast that we're gonna record separately off the feed. We'll get that up for you guys if you want to hear about it. But for now, we are going to talk about the PlayStation 1. Which came out in 1995?
95.
95.
You mean the greatest system ever made? Second greatest system ever made?
That might be more appropriate because the PlayStation, like Chris Davis mentioned earlier, the PlayStation 2 has an incredible library, like fucking incredible library. But the PlayStation 1, I would say, is easily a close second.
I mean, I would say it's a scenario where, yes, I do agree that the PlayStation 2 probably overall throughout its lifespan was probably one of the greatest consoles.
It's got
but
the-
I
it's
do
got, like, one
I
of the
will
most
say that the
unbeatable
original
libraries.
PlayStation is why that exists. It got that started. They definitely had a great library of games. It definitely still fucking holds up. The fact it's one of those things that the fact is this console is
All that
probably
needs-
16, 17 years old. It fucking still runs beautifully.
Yeah.
Never has any issues. Doesn't get fucking burnt out. Doesn't whatever. I can hook this up right now and play it. And
you know that you're holding the PS1, which is the
Yeah.
redesigned version of
correct.
the PlayStation, right?
That's fucking like half the, not even half, like a fucking third of the size.
You know, all that thing needed was a handle.
Yeah.
Carry it around like a game.
Wait, Nick, you know they came out with a portable screen for this, right?
Yeah,
This
I
was
remember
that was one of my biggest regrets, is never getting that mini
I
like
don't think
6-inch
the
screen.
was that good, though.
Dude, that's fucking conceptually
Yeah, it was
just
cool,
great.
though. It was
Just a
fucking
great
cool.
concept that you can pop it on
Yeah.
there, flip it open, and you just fucking play your games wherever.
Yeah,
I could be
absolutely.
fucking playing a PS1 game right here, sitting on this couch, if I had that little screen on.
Yeah. So when did it was that your first PlayStation?
This was my first, this physically in here, not like conceptually, this was here. When, I don't remember what year I got it. It had to have been maybe 2001, 2002, when I finally got a PlayStation. I only had to have like an N64. Wait, hold on, when did PS2 come out?
2001.
Okay, then I would have gotten this
2001.
before that. I don't remember. I'm horrible with dates. I don't know. No, fucking someone remind me.
I mean, there was still PS1 stuff coming out like well into the PS2 launch after PS2 launch.
But I got this because of a single game, and I probably talked about it on the show before, but it was Final Fantasy VIII. I had played the PC demo of that probably a good 15, maybe 100 times over and over again. And it's the Blam Garden segment where you're doing your final seed test where you have to go and fight the T-Rex and like the whatever. I played that so many times. And finally, I convinced my mom to get me this
was
console.
that your first Final Fantasy?
That was my first Final Fantasy.
So your first Final Fantasy experience was on a PC. That's crazy.
Yes. Yes.
Crazy.
And it was Final Fantasy VIII.
No, I will say that Final Fantasy VIII was not the first Final Fantasy. I played the Final Fantasy VII demo before I played Final Fantasy VIII demo, but I actually enjoyed 8 a little bit more, maybe just because the demo of 7 wasn't that great. And so I got Final Fantasy VIII.
I think there's
with
no
this.
arguing, no matter how you feel about Final Fantasy, which one is the best one or whatever, or how you feel about modern Final Fantasy, but like there is something magical about all the Final Fantasies that came out on that platform.
Oh, fuck yeah.
7, 8, 9.
Well, I
Are
mean,
all
sure. I mean, you
Tactics.
could say the same about like Super Nintendo as well,
Yeah.
but
No,
like
yeah,
it was also like Final Fantasy VII was the one that kind of popularized the
Sure.
JRPG in the mainstream.
No,
I
but
think.
also, like I would say, like in terms of that platform, like the Final Fantasies that came on that platform, like felt so. Like I wish Final Fantasy would get back to a time when like the jump from one to the next felt so dramatically different. Like Final
Oh, I
Fantasy
thought
7
you said
and
when
8,
it was good.
like Final Fantasy 7 and 8 are totally different totally different games.
Dude,
8
all
and
of
9
them
are totally different
Yeah,
games.
no, they were all just like conceptually it was the same. It's RPG, whatever, overworld, blah blah blah. But yeah, just the universe you were in.
The atmosphere
was always
the
so
vibe of
different.
What's
each of
even
those games is all
crazier
different.
is Final Fantasy VII came out in 1997, 8 came out in 1999, and 9 came out in 2000.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That is
A
insane.
year
Think
after
about
8.
think about that. That's crazy, and they're like the most memorable, some of the most memorable JRPGs ever made.
Absolutely.
But I will say that we are talking about PlayStation 1, and like I have so many memories of fucking pressing this button,
At
watching
a
the fucking PlayStation logo
It's
come
still
on the
it's
screen.
still the best startup for me,
And then
in my
fucking
opinion.
starting, like I said, Final Fantasy VIII was one of my biggest ones on this. I did, like I was talking with Crispy about it last week, but Mega Man Legends was another game that I fucking loved on this console. Did it originally come out on the 64?
It originally came out on PlayStation. The 64 port was later.
Okay, so I played it on PlayStation. But yeah, it's another situation where my first 2 consoles, SNES and PlayStation, I only had maybe 5 games for each console. Like I did not.
Yeah, no, I mean
I did not have much for either.
that
of
was
them.
so Super Nintendo is what I had before a PlayStation, and I didn't have a lot of games for it either. I didn't become a big video gamer until I got my PlayStation, and I got my PlayStation the launch of the N64 that fall that the 64 came out. I really wanted a 64, obviously, because I was a big Nintendo guy.
Sure.
And I liked Final Fantasy, and I assumed that all these games that I loved from the Super Nintendo were going to end up on the next Nintendo, and
They all shifted to PlayStation.
Yeah.
and I remember the first time I ever played. Well, we'll talk about that next week. The first time I ever played a 64. I guess I'll talk about that memory next week. But ever since I saw that, I really, really wanted one. But my parents or Santa couldn't find one.
Fucking Santa.
Santa couldn't find one, so they got me a PlayStation instead. And I wanted N64 and I wanted Shadows of the Empire because I mean everybody loves Star Wars, right? That was before the prequels.
Yeah.
Star Wars was the greatest thing on the planet.
Before anyone had actually played Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, before anyone played Shadows of the Empire, I wanted Shadows of the Empire, and they couldn't find it, so my parents got me PlayStation and Dark Forces. Because that was the fucking Star Wars game for the PlayStation. Dark Forces is a great fucking video game. Didn't
Dark
run great
Forces
on
is amazing.
PlayStation, but I mean, but I played the shit out of it. I didn't.
That's the one I played.
The
for
frame rate
96
didn't bother me back in
Yeah.
1996.
That's the one I played 96 month, right?
Yeah, the like
Yeah,
yes.
the, like,
That's a bad
fucking
version of it,
Quake
yeah.
Star
That was like
Wars.
Duke Nukem, but
Yeah.
with Star Wars.
Yeah. But it's a good fucking video game.
It's so good.
And so I got mine, and I remember, I think I also got like Crash Bandicoot back when that first came out, the very first Crash Bandicoot. And but most of the time I spent playing PlayStation early on were like fucking around with these demo discs.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I think when you got a PlayStation, it came with like a demo disc.
Yeah.
And depending on what era you bought the PlayStation, the demo disc would have different games on it. And the one I had on it had like Tekken 2 and stuff, and that was the first time I had played a Tekken game.
Man, that demo disc shaped the Brad into what we have
It
now.
did. I remember when I first got that PlayStation, it was like Christmas, right? And we had hooked it up, and it was like fucked up. Like I guess the cables are wrong, and I couldn't really figure it out, and my dad couldn't figure it out, and I could see the picture, but it was like when you flipped the fucking the yellow with the white or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on,
Oh,
but
composite.
like I could see it was like all green and like moving and off, but I was still playing like Tekken like that because it was like so sick. But we eventually figured it out. I was a happy camper. But
Thank God
yeah.
for that.
Also, you know, I had experience back on the Super Nintendo watching my older brothers play like the old Final Fantasy games, and I kind of fucked around with them myself. That was the first time I played Final Fantasy, was on the Super Nintendo, but I was still pretty young. It wasn't until the PlayStation where I really sort of started to fall in love with that genre, and most of my library at the time of games that I actually owned and bought myself were JRPGs, which is why I'm doing a JRPG night later this month.
Cool. My PlayStation 1. I'm thinking about it now. I think I actually got my PlayStation 1 in 1998 because of Resident Evil 2. It was mostly because I
Nick,
wanted.
you were too young for Resident Evil 2.
Well, it's funny because I got that. I convinced my dad to let me get a PlayStation and Resident Evil 2, and like he booted it up, and the first thing I think I mentioned this last week. The first thing I did was I fucking blew a zombie in half with a shotgun, and my dad was like, "Fuck." But yeah, dude, the PlayStation 1 and Resident Evil 2 kind of changed my life as far as video games go. Like I was hooked. I loved Resident Evil 2 so much, and shortly after I played Resident Evil 2, I went back because I wanted, at the time, all I had was 2 and 1, so I went back and played 1. I always remember as a friend of mine who was talking about, he's like, "You gotta play Resident Evil 1. It's so scary. There's this horrifying clock that's like grandfather clock in the main hall. It just creeps me the fuck out." And I got it, and it's just it's like the most mundane.
Resident Evil was
like-
never super scary for me.
No, it wasn't. Like
There was like cool jump moments and stuff.
especially
but-
after Resident Evil 2. Like Resident Evil 2, I think is efficient. Is legitimately creepy. Maybe not like super terrifying or anything, but like it's a creepy atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then you go back to play Resident Evil 1, you're like, oh, this isn't exactly the same. But that game was still magnificent in and of itself as well. I played that for 96 months.
Did you play the original Silent Hill back when it first came out?
Which was 99, right?
99.
Resident
yeah.
Evil 2 got me hooked on Resident Evil, and I was immediately looking for something to follow that up with. So that's what led me to Silent Hill. Although it had been out for a while, I think, at the time I found it.
Okay.
Because I remember having to I found it at a used store, in a used game
So
store.
the original Silent Hill was the first time I can recall in my life being like
Terrifying?
too frightened to play a video game.
Yeah, I think.
And I had played the Resident Evils, but like I had a demo disc with the Silent Hill demo. I could not even get through the demo, and I had never touched a Silent Hill game from that moment, that day where I turned off the demo, even though it was the middle of the day, until I started streaming on this fucking website, and I played all the Silent Hill games since after that because people liked watching me get scared, and I was legitimately like when I first started streaming these horror games on the site, I was really scared by all that stuff. I couldn't deal with it. Like I same thing with like Fatal Frame later. I couldn't even get through a demo, but
dude, I bought Fatal Frame and got to the first hallway, saw my first ghost, and said, "Fuck this, I'm out."
Tough guy.
I know. Crispy, do you have any?
So I got my PlayStation 1 in God, it was either 98 or 99. I was in middle school. I think I was in 7th grade, and that was not counting my computer, the 4th console I ever owned.
Damn.
And that was the first one that I like saved up money on my own and bought it.
Oh, wow.
And I remember like going to Electronics Boutique with my dad in the Ocala Mall and like going in to buy it, and like the fucking store clerk being like, "Well, they got this like PlayStation 2 coming out pretty soon. Like maybe just wait and get that." And I was like, "No, fuck you. I've been waiting a year for this. Give me the PlayStation." Like,
what did you get for it?
the first game? I bought one game with it when I bought it.
I don't know.
Any guesses?
Spider-Man?
No.
You're thinking of me buying a PlayStation 3.
Spyro.
No.
Booster Gold.
God, I wish.
In 99 or 98? It's some baby shit, right?
Probably.
Fucking Croc 2.
I don't know.
Gex, Enter the Gecko.
Oh no,
I'm gonna go with Tomb Raider.
I'm
gonna go with Tomb Raider 2.
Like crazy. No, not Tomb Raider 2. Nope, not Final Fantasy 8.
Was it a Final Fantasy?
Okay, there's a
Nope.
lot of games on PlayStation.
It was.
You're gonna have to give us a hint.
It was Monster Rancher 3.
Oh, I had that game.
Monster Rancher was 6,
Spin a
dog.
That's
disc,
fucking
take a
crazy.
risk.
Like-
Like fast,
like,
like past.
I-
Unlock
'cause,
it,
like-
claim it, you can tame it.
Because that
Unlock
anime
your
was on
disc.
that cartoon or whatever was on TV at the time, and I used to watch it on Saturday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was kind of into it, and I saw the game. I didn't realize that it was a video game first, and I saw the game when we went to pick it, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is really cool!" Like, and like my dad looked at it, and he read the part where it was like you can put music CDs in the console to like unlock new monsters. He's like, "That sounds awesome! You have to get this!" Like, so like we bought it and went home and hooked it up, and my dad pulled out a CD collection. He's like putting all these Eagles DVDs in Eagles CDs
That's
in my PlayStation.
hilarious.
All these
Like,
monsters are
like-
shitty. What's wrong
and
with
it
the
was
Eagles?
like there's like 3 different monsters, but like each of them have like 20 different
Colors,
palettes.
yeah.
Like and then those are different monsters.
Yeah.
But that was
There
really
was
really
more
fun. And like I was sitting here thinking like, oh, what did I really love on PlayStation? And the weird thing was everything else I'd owned up until that point was Nintendo. I had an NES, I had an N64, and I had a Game Boy. And
Yeah.
Game Boy Color, and
Yeah.
I guess by this point maybe even also a Advance. I'm not sure. When did the Game Boy Advance come out?
2001.
2001.
Okay, maybe I guess I didn't have that yet then. But I had the N64 already. I got the PlayStation because, like, to me, I remember being a kid and I remember, like, going to Electronics Boutique or going to Blockbuster and, like, looking at the video game section and looking at, like, the jewel cases for PlayStation games and thinking, like, oh, man, this is, like, grown-up stuff. This is, like, what adults play. Like,
Yeah.
this is like big boy video gaming. So I was like, I gotta get into this as soon as I can. And then I did, and I didn't play a lot of the same stuff that you guys were playing.
Yeah, because you were young.
Like I was playing. I played 2
Spider-Man?
of the Spyro games, like a lot.
Hey,
I
I played a shit ton
a bunch of Spyro.
Oh.
I played I played all the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man games. I was playing a lot of Star Wars stuff at the time.
Yeah.
Did you play Dark Forces at the time?
I did, but not on PlayStation. I
play
had that
episode
already
1?
on computer. Huh?
Did you play episode 1?
Yes,
did.
and
The
the
Phantom
episode
Menace?
1 game was surprisingly
Better
like
than the movie.
it was better than the movie, and like had a
You
lot
are
of fun
wrong.
with it at the time. I
Did
mean,
you get
if
Jedi
I went,
power battles?
I did, dude. I remember when Jedi Power Battles came out and being like crazy excited
Garbage
about
game.
that game, and then it came out and I played it and I was like, oh, it's too hard.
It was
for me
too
to
hard.
play.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
killing the droids in Phantom Menace on the PS1 was so satisfying.
Me and some friends played the Phantom Menace PS1 game a lot, and I remember being really into it. I'm sure if I went back to it today, I would probably just throw up or something. But yeah, I like my PlayStation selection was really weird, and I didn't ever end up buying a lot of games for it. I just rented a bunch. So I ended up playing a lot of like first and second hours of a lot of games, and not really like going through like I played Mega Man. I played like 30 minutes of Mega Man Legend. You know, I was still like afraid of horror, so I never even like it never even occurred to me to like I wasn't into horror, I wasn't into fantasy when I was a kid. So like Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, like Suikoden, like any of these like RPGs or horror games, like would not have even crossed my mind to even
try
touch them. Yeah, it was really weird. And like after a while I kind of just floated over to the N64.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really like kick it up until I got a PS2 in 2001, I guess.
I wanted a 64 so bad, but when I ended up with the PlayStation, I became such a Sony fanboy back then because everyone was talking about like Mario 64 and stuff, and I was like, "Fuck you!" And back then, when I first got it, it really wasn't like the PlayStation library wasn't what it was
not that
a couple
great.
of years later. After Final Fantasy 7 came out, I was like strutting around, going, "Okay, you want a PlayStation," but back then it was like, Crash Bandicoot's cool and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
see, like I didn't even really play Crash Bandicoot.
Neither did I.
I didn't play a lot of like big obvious ones.
The most Crash Bandicoot I've ever played in my life is in Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4.
It's so weird. I was a little bit older, so I mean I don't think it was a thing for y'all at the time. Yeah, a little bit older. I'm not that much older than you guys.
7 or 8 years tops.
But you know, I feel like people talk about when they talk about kind of video game history that it was weird that Sony was kind of getting into it at the time, because back then it was just the Sega and Nintendo thing. And I definitely recall the Sega Nintendo kind of war, and I was always a Nintendo guy, but I wasn't so into video games that I was like, what is this Sony? By the time I got a PlayStation, I didn't really want one. I wanted a 64, but I definitely wasn't like, who is this newcomer? They make Walkmans. No, I was like, they were already cool by the time I got a PlayStation somehow.
Right.
Or I fucking made them seem cool to myself, you know? It's weird.
There was something kind of like I said, like walking through like store aisles and like seeing all the jewel cases. There was something that was like really different about all these PlayStation games coming in like CD jewel cases and like the artwork on them and like
I seriously do not think you can underestimate the power of those demo discs because Nintendo didn't have that. They couldn't have had that.
They couldn't send out demo cartridges.
Yeah. Well, and being able to like see all of these games, like all these different types of games, when I only played a very specific kind of game maybe before that, but now all of a sudden I have a demo disc with like racing games and fighting games and games I never really played much of before. Now I'm like I want to try all this stuff.
So I wanted to read something. I was kind of curious about my PlayStation because I couldn't remember exactly when I got it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I physically remember me and my mom standing in, I believe it was a Walmart, and all I wanted was this in Final Fantasy VIII, and I do believe at the time this was going for $130. Like, it was already kind of cheap. Yeah. But I was like looking up. I was like, when did it come out? And I found this, you know, the Wikipedia. Like, the PlayStation 1 is a smaller redesigned version of the original PlayStation platform. It was released July 7th, 2000, and went on to outsell all other consoles throughout the remainder of the year, including Sony's own PlayStation 2. Yeah. So when this came out, it actually outsold the PlayStation 2.
It was so cheap.
Yeah, because like PS2 had like a huge supply problem.
But like I said, I paid like $130 for this when the PlayStation was going for like $250 or something like that. I missed that.
Like, consoles, they never get this low anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Dude, I remember though when PS2 came out, there was like one kid in my class who had one, and it was like the rich kid.
Well, no,
and he had Project Gotham Racing, and that kid became the coolest kid.
My
in
next
class.
door neighbor got a PlayStation 2 in like 5 or 6 games for Christmas. Yeah. And I was fucking rocking my PS1 finally. And so yeah, dude, I would always go over to his house and like play his fucking cool. Like, I remember seeing Final Fantasy X and like, oh my god, dude,
so
so beautiful.
So just as kind of an anecdote about like what the PS1 did for me, because I had a Super NES. I had like one game. It was Mario Kart for it. I was just not really into gaming at all. I've talked about that a lot before. And then when did the N64 come out? Was it 96?
96.
Yeah.
I got an N64 in like 97 or something like that. And I still at that point I only had I had GoldenEye and I think maybe Mario 64 or something. And I was starting to feel the interest like building.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the PlayStation 1 because I had to play Resident Evil 2. And I was picking these consoles up, a year or two after they came out or whatever. When the PS2 came out, I was like, gotta have that. And I found a way, and I got it pretty damn close to when it launched. Maybe not like first day, but like that shit made me like, this is what I do. This is like one of my favorite things in the world now. It was primarily because of that fucking console. Before we move on, can I just, if y'all had to like pick a defining game from the PlayStation 1, and maybe
like a personal one, or?
Yeah, like your personal like defining game without I would say excluding maybe the obvious choices, because I think we could all easily say like, oh, Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 8 or whatever. Like if there's maybe a more obscure one that you have like really fond memories
that's
of.
the entirety of my PlayStation 1 collection right there. That's literally the only PlayStation 1 games I've ever.
Yeah, is there anything in there that you think maybe?
Final Fantasy 8. I mean, hold on, let me look at it real quick.
What about Metal Gear Solid? That's one thing we haven't mentioned.
So I will say that I did not play Metal Gear Solid when it first came out.
Oh,
I do think I played a little bit of it, but I didn't get into Metal Gear Solid until the second one came out. After that, I went back and played the first one.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just didn't have many PlayStation games back in the day. And so don't get me wrong, that entire collection, I did not have that at first. I had like 2 games for like 2 years, and then finally I started kind of collecting some more.
Yeah. I was just, it's like for me, like, obviously Final Fantasy 9, Resident Evil 2 are like amazing games that I cherish, and those are easily defining moments. But for me, when I think of the PlayStation 1, like one of the first things I think of is how much time I spent playing Tenchu Stealth Assassins. That game like blew my mind, and I played it so goddamn much.
So I played that a lot too. Metal Gear Solid was a weird one for me because it was one that magazines were hyping up so much, and I didn't really understand it. I wasn't familiar with the games on the NES.
Yeah.
Or, obviously not the MSX. So it was this thing that was very new to me, and I was like, why do people not shut up about this game? This is not an RPG. They keep talking about the story and the presentation, the direction and stuff, but this is not an RPG. How could it have a good story? Mm-hmm. So like I was like knee deep in JRPGs at the time, and I couldn't imagine wanting this game, but eventually the demo disc came out. Yeah. And I played that demo so much, and when Metal Gear Solid came out, I got it day one.
Wow.
So for me, obviously, Final Fantasy Tactics is my favorite game of all time. It is a PlayStation game. It is the game that when I bought it, I was so disappointed because I didn't understand what it was. Mm-hmm. I had seen trailers from the demo discs and stuff, and I thought it was this game where you walked around the world almost like Zelda.
Yeah.
Because the visuals were very different than it was in like Final Fantasy 7, so I was expecting it to be almost more like Zelda, and obviously it so wasn't that. I spent that whole evening after I got it, with my own money. I was so angry, and I was
little did you know.
Yeah, little did I know when I finally kind of like understood what it was and started to figure it out. It got hooks in me, and it became my favorite thing ever. Obviously, like Symphony of the Night and stuff. I mean, there's so many big deals for the PlayStation for me. I guess the one that maybe I don't, talk about as much is just how much I fell in love with Tekken back then, and that was because of that first Tekken 2 demo disc, and I eventually picked up that and picked up Tekken 3, and so much playing Tekken 3 with my friends in high school, and just I was sort of the king of Iron Fist back when I was just playing with my friends back in Tekken, and me going to the arcades after that when Tekken Tag came out, thinking I was hot shit and kind of getting my ass kicked for years, honestly, until I started to get really good, and it all started, with Tekken on the PlayStation, and obviously you guys aren't big into fighting games, and you guys aren't big into Tekken, obviously, but like that was a really big deal for the system. Tekken 3 is still one of the best selling fighting games of all time and one of the best-selling games on the entire system.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the highest rated video games of all time, period. Like that was such a big deal for Sony at the time and for me, and man, it really is still one of the best fighting games ever made. The only reason Tekken Tag is on my top 10 and not Tekken 3 is because that's the one that I made that transition. That's the one when I started going to the arcade and stuff.
Yeah.
Not with Tekken 3, but
yeah
man, I fucking also we haven't mentioned, but like the Tony Hawk games on PlayStation were so.
I only ever
good.
played those on N64.
So fucking good. Yeah.
So I went out there. I looked at my entire collection, and I can tell you which ones I originally owned with my PlayStation, and it's not much. But I mean, my entire collection is Darkstalkers, which my mom got for me randomly.
That's a cool fighting game.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Chrono Cross, Dance Dance Revolution, which I never had on the play. I actually got that and only played on the PS2. Final Fantasy Origins and Final Fantasy Chronicles, which I got probably around 2005 because I got them in Corpus Christi while I was on a band trip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely didn't originally play them. Final Fantasy 7 and 8, and 9. So those three I actually did play originally on my PlayStation.
Yeah.
Obviously post like 2000, probably closer to 2001, 2002. Final Fantasy 9 is one of the few games I have up there that is not a greatest hits. It's with the original. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Horrible
people
fucking
had
game.
that.
But people like that one.
That game was not that good.
Is that the first
I
one?
really liked
Yes.
it.
Yes.
People like that one.
I really
Legend,
Mostly because the ones after that were
Legend
so
of
bad.
Dragoon. Mega Man Legends, which Mega Man Legends was another one that I originally had, and Metal Gear Solid.
When did Legend of Dragoon come out? 99?
Maybe. Krita, I was not a band
2000.
nerd. I was on the drum line. Go fuck yourself. I also up there, I do have Tenchu 2, X-Men Mutant Academy, and Ihirgis. I don't count those ones, though. I got those in, like, 2006 when I worked at Hollywood Video. So by that time, like, I had already...
Tenchu 2 is pretty great, too.
Yeah.
Crispy?
But yeah, what I was like saying, I only ever had like 3 or 4 games. Granted,
Yeah.
they were like RPGs, so
Those
I
are
mean,
good
those were
games
like
to have,
hundreds
though.
of hours of worth of content.
Damn good games.
So
to have.
honestly, the best bet for your money, which I'm sure my mom loved because we didn't have that much. So being able to spend like $20 on a game and me play it for like fucking 100 something hours was definitely worth it.
Nice. Crispy? Do you have a defining game you'd like to share?
Symphony of the Night.
So, like, if I would...
People talking about Symphony of the Night in my algebra class
You're hijacking this, Brad. You're hijacking this.
made it sound so cool. But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't...
It sounds like licensed games, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I was really young, so, like, I didn't really do PlayStation well. You know what I'm saying?
We're not worried
Like,
about how well you did it.
I jumped after the license stuff that, like, I already knew. So, like, things that were a big deal to me back... If I was going to answer the question, like, from a today perspective, like, what game from the PlayStation library do I really think, like, I love and I think is really, really good, I would probably say something like Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
That's something I could go back to. If I was answering from the perspective of like 10-year-old me playing these games, like the stuff I was really obsessed with and into, man, I was really big into Digimon World.
Sweet.
I was I just saw one that there was this fucking crazy game that I was actually really into that I wish I'd played more of. But they had Magic the Gathering had a game on PlayStation called Battle Mage or Battlegrounds
That
or
sounds
Battle
familiar,
Mage,
yeah.
something like that.
Magic the Gathering's Battlegrounds?
No, it's Battle Mage.
I think that came later.
Battle Mage was on the original PlayStation.
Okay, Battle Man.
I think the one you're thinking, are you talking about the one that's like the 3D characters like walking around on the battlefield?
Yeah,
That one
that
was-
one's later on the Xbox.
That one was later. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. PlayStation was like a big experiment, and that was like the first thrust into video game autonomy that like I kind of made, and I didn't
Yeah.
really know what to do, and I kind of didn't. I missed everything.
There's
I missed everything.
There's no doing it wrong, Crispy.
I was way more focused on like getting the Nintendo stuff that I
Fair
kind of
Well, we'll talk about that
So-
next week.
Yeah,
Chris.
we'll be talking about N64.
I was much more of a Nintendo kid.
Fair enough. All right. Yeah. So that was actually fun.
Not,
Let's
so.
do that again. Yeah. Let's do
Next
that
week
again.
will be interesting.
Next week we'll talk about the Nintendo 64, which will be interesting. All right, Nolan,
What up?
do you have some questions for us from our supporters on Patreon?
I absolutely do, and unfortunately, I used my tab. Oh, here it is. Okay, cool. I was trying to get to. We do have 2 new patrons, and I was trying to get to them.
Wonderful.
Fuzzy Turd.
Fuzzy
Turd.
Do you say fuzzy?
I said Fuzzy Turd. And JH. Thank
Slip
you
of the
to our
tongue.
new patrons. We
Thank you, guys.
appreciate you.
Much appreciated.
You are lovely people. So yeah, speaking of patrons, every week on Patreon we ask a question. We post a question thread where you, our patrons, can ask us any question you want, anything at all, anything, and we'll answer them live on the show. So first question this week comes from Cobra. What was everyone's favorite toy growing up? Mine was an offshoot
Easy.
of the Lego brand. Action figures called Bionicles. I guess. Basically, a series of
Like, we
figures
don't know
you had
what
to build,
Bionicles
and when you got enough of them, you could mix and match to make your own characters. My OC did not steal. Wait, my OC do not... Oh, my OC do not steal. His original content. So to reiterate, what's the cast's favorite toy growing up?
Easy.
Bionicles were dope.
I've mentioned this before. There was one Christmas where I got like nothing but Ghostbusters stuff. When I got the Proton Pack with the trap,
You
fucking
Favorite single toy?
no,
That
nothing
was-
ever beat that.
I think honestly it depends on like kind of you could ask me something that for like kind of year like elementary versus middle versus high school whatever. When I was in it might have been elementary. It was when I was going to I forget the name. I used to go to this daycare after school. Because my mom worked, she couldn't pick me up, so there was a bus that would bus all the kids from the elementary school, like literally just right down the street to a daycare, and we would hang out there until our parents came and picked us up. And I had this Leonardo action figure, and he had 2 katanas, like 2 swords.
As one does, because it's Leonardo.
And I fucking loved this toy. And then one day at daycare, a kid stole one of the swords.
Motherfucker.
And I was so
And I
fucking... And I
beat the shit out
no, like I told like the I don't want to say teacher. She wasn't a teacher, just some dumb fucking stupid person who worked at a daycare back in the 90s. And
Tommy stole my phone.
yeah, and I was like, and she was like, "Well, did you steal it?" And he was like, "No." And she's like, "Well, I guess he didn't." And I was like, "This fucking bitch! Like, why would I lie
Is
about
that what you said back then?
I was
This
like, why
fucking
would I
bitch.
lie about him stealing one of my... Like, what, is she gonna, magically find a sword on him that wasn't his? Like, that's not gonna end... Like, I never got it back. And I was so
That
mad.
son of a bitch.
But yeah, I also had a Stretch Armstrong doll that I really liked until my rabbit, Groucho, chewed through him and he started leaking, like, a green ooze, and it was never the same. But yeah.
Wait, the rabbit was never the same?
Well, that too.
It's
No.
like
Well, the rabbit died.
Was it from the...
No,
Green
not from
Ooze?
that. From something else.
Oh, man.
Everybody's rabbit dies.
You had a favorite toy?
Yeah, you fucking stole mine.
Ha! I did. I had to get
The
to it
trap
first.
in particular was like...
Dude, the
trap
trap.
was cool.
It was so fun.
I like put a bunch of shit in that trap. That was like my little personal keepsake box.
Nice.
Once again, I will reiterate, my neighbor Matthew had all the cool shit because his parents definitely made more money, and so I'd always play with his toys. And he did have a set of Power Ranger gloves, and they were the ones that had like buttons on the wrist, and you hit them and it'd be like, "It's morphin' time!"
Oh, shit.
Or whatever.
I got the Green Ranger's...
Yeah,
the flute thing,
flute
the flute
thing.
dagger.
The kid that I lived next door to had the flute dagger, the Green Ranger, and that was like the only toy I ever wanted as a child and never got.
Man, I feel like I'm just over here just...
That was like the one thing I pined for from my
For
childhood.
me,
sorry, Crispy.
for me, my toy love
Was
went
it some
from
nice jacks,
went
or
from
maybe some
G.I. Joe's
like a sweet
to
hard candy,
Transformers.
a yo-yo made of wood?
One of
G.I.
those- one of those
Joe's.
hoops
I
that
was
switch to
lightly
the
into
stick.
G.I. Joe's and I was lightly into Transformers, but I went hard on Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
I had fucking everything. I had the turtle
Dude,
sewer.
you and everyone
I had the
else, man.
Technodrome.
The Technodrome was fucking
Fucking
dope,
cool
though, wasn't
because it had the
like,
ramp that would
opened
fold
up,
down,
like-
and the ball on the top, the eye would like
Dude.
fucking roll down the
That
thing. It was
Technodrome.
fucking cool. But yeah, in fact, I got into Ninja Turtles because my dad pulled a fast one on me. I
Sunshine Criticism. Brad's favorite toy is a ball in a cup back during the Depression.
Actually, the ball in the cup was pretty cool.
That's pretty funny.
Cleanups is easy.
The
Just
ball
put
in the
a
cup
a
was pretty cool.
Yeah, ball in a cup.
I like the paddle with the rubber ball.
Ball in a cup is ageless.
Yeah, it's ageless.
This one's defective.
No, what it was like I every like straight A report card or whatever I got when I was in grade school, I would get a Transformer or whatever, and at the end of the year I finally saved up for or I was building up to me getting Optimus Prime finally, which I don't think was that cheap back then. So my dad was like, "How about these Ninja Turtles, Brad? These are cool." And I was like, "Oh, that is cool."
Dude, but then Ninja Turtles blew up into like the big thing.
yeah,
there
I
was
know.
just like
and I was huge
1,000
into it.
of them.
I still remember my first Ninja Turtle.
Dude,
Well, my first Ninja Turtle purchase, it was a wacky action Raphael with the cheapskate, which was a separate vehicle. So I got the wacky action Raphael, which would spin on his back. And,
I remember that
And
one.
the cheapskate, which had a foot that would, if you did a wheelie, would pop out and kick.
that's fucking.
So
All right,
I finally remembered. Yeah, I know. Real quick, one of the toys I was trying to think of it earlier in the day or earlier tonight when we were talking about '90s stuff, but it was Mighty Max.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And Mighty Max was like
Mighty Max.
the boys' version of like Polly Pocket.
Yeah.
And like they ended up making like a TV show after it.
Oh, yeah.
But I had
All
like a
the-
couple of little Mighty Max little
All
box-
the playsets were monster heads.
Yeah.
Where they'd open up and it was like the
a
monster's
little set.
lair.
Yeah,
that, like,
dude,
Max
I fucking.
was-
But you would always lose it because the fucking pieces
Okay,
were like
those
that
were
big.
cool, but the Star Wars Micro Machine ones. Remember
Yeah.
those where they do like the Stormtrooper head and,
Yeah.
and Darth Vader's head?
I remember those.
Those are fucking...
Polly Pocket, man.
Right. All right. Moving on. Next question, Mr. Green Toast.
sick.
I will say I was a big fan of my Light Bright.
Yeah, those are
Mr. Green Toast. Are there any food or snack products from your youth that you that are no longer sold and wish would come back? For example, I love 3D Doritos for the unique crunch, but sadly was discontinued in the early 2000s.
Oh, I got it. I got
up,
this one.
Nick?
I got Dunkaroos.
Ooh, I do.
Oh my god, I would
did
kill
like,
for a
I think
box
they
of
still
Dunkaroos.
technically exist.
I don't think you would like them anymore.
I think you're full of shit. I would love them.
They do still exist. I actually think I saw some in the store the other day. They're not quite the same, but yeah. The thing is, and honestly, I talked about this with some of my friends the other day, is that like 90s nostalgia is like coming back because I mean, the reason is because all of us who were kids then now have money, and so they're like, oh shit, we
what
can sell
I
the-
bring
we can
back?
sell them the fuck out of all this nostalgic stuff,
That
and so
we
they're
live in a cultural wasteland.
Wait a
yeah,
second.
that's true.
Bring that back, Chris
they're
Davis.
bringing. So yeah, you can buy Dunkaroos. They still exist.
I'm gonna buy those and bring them next
Look
week.
at that,
Dunkaroos.
2.5 stars, Nick.
Well, it can't be. Oh.
So
They're-
I will.
Nick, I bet we could make better.
The shit you
Dunkaroos.
liked when you were a kid is not good.
I will agree with you, Mr. Green Toast. 3D Doritos. I would like to get some of those again. I remember really enjoying those.
Do you guys remember like these little cookies, and they were either bears or koalas or
Teddy
something?
Look at Dunkaroos, man.
No, shut up. And
Animal
they had
crackers?
no, and they had like chocolate inside of them.
I think I do.
They were like these little plump little bears, and you'd
I know
bite
what
into
you're
them, and they were
talking
like
about.
filled with
No,
chocolate.
I never had those
I
because
don't
those
know
are
what
gross.
you're
I don't
talking
remember what they're
about.
called, but
Yeah,
I do
I
remember
know
those
what
now.
you're
You know,
talking
I don't even
another one.
Some Teddy Graham?
Here's another one. Fucking Sir Chomps-a-Lot mini raviolis. Y'all remember those?
mini ravioli.
I mean, those still exist. That's
like
still
them
a
'cause they're
thing.
No,
like
they
Chef
had, no. There are
Chef
mini
Boyardee.
raviolis. They're Chef Boyardee,
Yeah.
but Sir Chomps-a-Lot had the little
What the
alligator on the
I
can.
do not
That's
remember
just
that at all.
branding, dog.
Yeah,
You're eating the
that's
same
like
shit.
That's off-brand shit. Did you wait, Nick?
No,
your
but they're
parents,
labeled as a
your parents
dinosaur.
could have
They
afforded
taste better.
ravioli,
Oi, oi,
like Chef
I got-
Boyardee.
Fucking Ecto
Jaws?
Cooler, man.
Wait, what?
Ecto Cooler.
Ah, Ecto Cooler.
Ecto Cooler. When it came back a couple years ago, I bought as much of it as I could.
Dude, I'm sorry.
My
Ran
favorite
through it
snack
like a
from when
mouse.
I was the kid was the cinnamon button
That's basic.
in the root beer barrel.
Wait, Ecto Cooler is essentially Capri Sun, right?
In the button.
No,
No, they're different.
It was
Feels high C.
it was
okay.
high C, and it was like a green or like mandarin orange flavor.
Gotcha.
Have
okay.
y'all ever heard of saltwater taffy?
Spend all day pulling the taffy.
There was definitely some other stuff. I'm trying to remember. There
There's
was
so
definitely
many.
a lot.
We could keep going.
Yeah.
We need to move on.
You ever have a malt, Brad?
One of
I go to Whataburger. I don't get a shake. I get a malt.
one of our new patrons, Fuzzy Turd.
Fuzzy
My name
Turd.
is Zach, and I've been listening since 2012.
Zach is such a
Yeah,
90s
But
name.
feel off.
I've
But,
been podcasting since
but feel
2012.
off for a bit. But I've recently started listening again. Oh, fell off. Sorry. One of my favorite parts of the podcast was Chatter of the Week, and I even won one week. Only barely, but I won due to me choosing Budokai 3 in my top 5 games. However,
Nice.
I've been listening to the podcast for a while and noticed that there's no longer a Chatter of the Week segment. Why?
You could be chatter of the week. this week.
The main
Fuzzy turd.
reason
You
was
win again.
Fuzzy,
You win
was because we kind of ran.
I'll be
ran
honest,
out of chatters. But we had been
Yeah.
doing it so long, like that people were resubmitting.
Fucking no one left.
Yeah.
Just because like we just weren't getting enough submissions, and it kind of.
I mean, honestly, it'd be interesting. It would be an interesting experiment to like start it up again, just to see what. But like before, like literally, like you
Chatter
said,
of
like
the week is Big Wazoo. He likes Metal Gear.
it became every week. It was like, I think this guy submitted before.
Yeah, like we just started seeing the same people over and over again, just because we had gone through them. Don't get me wrong. Now that it's been long enough, we could probably start it up again.
But that would just take it more time on the show.
Congratulations, Big
But it
Wazoo.
did be
We
one
already
more
have
segment.
we already have a pretty full show.
Yeah, that's the only problem. Is honestly back then it was something that kind of, I want to say pad the time back then.
If we ever did it again, I'd probably wanted to bring it back as like a chatter of the month kind of thing and do
I
it
don't
on
think we were
do it
ever
on like one
padding
show a
for
month
time.
or something.
I guess that's probably true too. All right, next question from
Good question. though.
Jerose.
Thanks for listening.
Assuming you have a time machine, which game from current day would you show yourself from 20 years ago? A working full setup console display is given, so yourself from 20 years ago can also play it properly.
Dude, I would take myself back to 1998 when I was playing Resident Evil 2 and show myself fucking Resident Evil 7.
Wait, why not the 2 remake?
Well, I haven't played that.
Ooh,
Why
that's
no?
a good
But
question.
that's like.
I mean, I was
But it's almost like torture. It's almost like, hey, little guy from 20 years ago, here's a really cool game. You got to wait 20 years to play anything like
I
this.
go
again.
back, say, hey, Brad, stop playing Symphony of the Night. I have this game called Lords of Shadows,
Oh,
and then I would kill myself back in the time, and then the dude who time traveled would just disappear, and we'd both be smiling as we died.
maybe
and we'd be out of a podcast.
papers, please.
Oh my god.
Like something random,
Something
that's not
completely
like not Red Dead Redemption 2.
Something
you know?
that someone would like back in the day would just not get.
Yeah,
like,
like-
what?
I don't know. Like I was just my tastes were so different.
Yeah.
Maybe something like Last of Us, just to be like.
You guys got it all wrong. It would be.
No,
A
I mean,
fucking,
like just
online
to be like
crazy thing. Like
no, just to
PUBG.
be like, look how crazy computer graphics get. You know, like.
But how would that even work, Brad? You can't play a multiplayer game back in
Well,
like...
I mean, okay,
Yeah.
let's assume that you can bring modern internet connections.
So you'd have to
with you.
bring also like 50 other people, 100 other people to fucking play it with?
Yes, no,
And
they
you
would
could
be
only-
online in the future, and your connection
Oh,
would
so
go
it's
back
an
to the past.
an internet connection that goes between the past and the present.
They figured it out,
Wow.
Nolan.
Yes, they
That's
figured it out.
intense.
That's why
VR would be cool, Beck. That's a good. That's
what I'm saying. I would take my
super hot VR.
I would take myself
Oh,
Resident Evil
shit.
7
that would be something
in VR
crazy.
specifically.
VR, yeah.
VR super.
VR
hot.
existed back then, but not.
Not like
mean,
these.
okay.
Not like this.
Not like
Okay.
this.
Yeah. Super hot VR.
Not like
yeah,
this.
All right,
dude.
final question from this evening from Zero Skies. Before proper days of the internet, was there any game rumors you fell for? Like beating a game without dying would unlock a character but turned out to be
Yes.
fake.
There
Oh,
is.
God, so
there,
many.
There was one, and the big one that I remember was this rumor that that Blizzard was going to put out a game called StarCraft Ghost. That was a character action game set in the StarCraft.
I don't
universe.
think that's what.
fell for that one for
That's
a long
not in the
time.
spirit of the question.
So I think
like
the,
Eris was one. Yeah.
well, I think the reason everyone fell for the Eris thing is because
Wait, what was the Eris thing?
When you that you could maybe bring her back.
you could
Oh.
save her. Like,
It-
yeah.
it's because when you went back to the church in Midgar, like in the third disc or whatever, I guess you go into the church and you'd see her and it would flash for a second
Yeah.
and she would disappear.
yeah.
And I think that's the seed people used for like, hey, there's a way to maybe bring her back.
Man, that was magical
I,
though, right?
I don't know if
Remember
that was just like a what was that, like a hallucination?
Yeah, something like that.
Or like a glitch. I mean,
Yeah,
I still don't
whatever.
even know what the fuck that was, but I think it was.
There's a lot of like little things. Like I remember in Pokemon, if you hold down an A, it like increases the chance of like catching the Pokemon. And oh my god, even to
Yeah.
fucking like 2
I do it
years
today.
ago when I was playing like streaming Pokemon on the 3DS, I still hold down A while I'm trying to catch a fucking
It
Pokemon.
just like it feels so powerless,
Yeah.
just sitting there watching, not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right? I just have to.
Oh, what else? There definitely were a lot of rumors.
I feel like I spent a lot of time trying to figure out if that. I apologize. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out if that Lara Croft nude code thing was real.
Street Fighter 2 back in the day.
there was
There was a lot of
I thought they were all real.
there was a lot of talk that there was a secret boss after M. Bison, but you have to like,
I remember
get
that.
all
Yeah,
like
yeah.
perfects or something.
Yeah.
And that's one I really believed. Also, there's a lot of mystery around stuff in Mortal Kombat, like
Yeah, wasn't
2 especially.
Reptile like originally a rumor? In
But
the
see, I
first
think that
Mortal
stuff
Kombat?
was like some of that stuff was real, but there was definitely some of it that wasn't, and a lot of it was like
Because I thought
Legend.
Reptile was one of those things where like people talked about like, oh, you could unlock this green
Yeah.
ninja,
Oh, yeah,
and then when
yeah.
Mortal Kombat 2 came around, they were like, okay, well now there's a green ninja.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was so Reptile was rumored as a character
in the first game.
in the first one, right? Okay.
I think he
fell for
might have
that too.
actually
Yeah.
been
He
in
might
the
have
first
been
one.
maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know.
I can't remember anymore. I know there definitely probably were. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of like naked like things back in the day, just because you
Yeah.
fucking nerds. Like, oh, you do this, you see them naked.
There
But
was
yeah.
something about Masingo and Pokemon too that part of that's true, and then there was like other rumors attached to that weren't true, and yeah, I don't.
Dude,
even
I heard
remember.
about Missing No, and I was like, all right, sure, whatever, fuck you. And then I did it, and I was like, oh my fucking
Yeah.
god, it's
Wait,
real.
what was it?
Missing No?
Missing number.
Missing
Oh.
number. The
It's a
Pokemon that
glitch in
you had to go to
Pokemon.
this town and then fly here and then
You
sail
had to go to
south
Cinnabar Island,
and then sail this way and then you
Was he part of the original 150?
Yes.
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
I mean, it was a
No.
glitch in Pokemon. And you would go up and down in this one segment, and for some reason it fucked up the game.
Oh!
And you would fight Missing No, and if you whatever item was in like the third slot or something would all of a sudden become
Multiply.
99,
Yeah.
and so you can get like 99 rare candies. And
Oh,
It,
right,
it
right.
just like I remember doing that because you could like you'd get the Master Ball and then you'd go to Cinnabar Island.
get 99
You'd go
Master
up and down
Balls.
the East Coast. You'd encounter Missing No and then you run away and it would like multiply your Master Balls. But there was also like originally a rumor about like if you caught Missing No, you could somehow turn it into or use it to
Kabuto or
spawn. No, it had something to do with Mew.
yeah,
Like, there was something
There was a
about
rumor
Mew
about Mew, yeah.
in Missing No.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But anyway, that's all the questions we had this week from our patrons. Thank you to all our patrons for those lovely questions.
Yeah, I will say this too. I because obviously we're doing these 1998 themed podcasts. If you have questions,
Yeah,
well,
good
like we had a
questions.
few good questions today that were related to the 90s or whatever. So if you have any like 90s themed questions, we're obviously having a lot of fun, like kind of getting nostalgic about
Ask
it.
us
and
about
stuff,
our
so.
90s selves.
Yeah. We would love to answer any 90s themed questions. So keep that in mind. We have 2 more shows to do during this month. So keep that in mind. We'd love to hear from you. Patreon.com/4Player if you want to support us on Patreon. All right. Let's do it. It's time to wrap up the show.
With
It is
what?
It is time for the 4-Player Minute from the future.
From the future!
Which is basically just another way of saying the 4-Player
In 20
Minute.
years, I'm going to talk about fighting games because EVO was last weekend and it was super fucking hype and they made a ton of fucking announcements. So my thank you, fuck you, hype, and sweat are all related to fighting games. My hype is for Soul Calibur 6. I watched the top 8 for Soul Calibur 6 and it was fucking cool. And they announced Song Mina, which is a character I always liked from Soul Calibur, so I'll be playing as her as of now. Who knows who else will be in the game. But yeah, so I'm really happy to play Soul Calibur 6. It's actually coming out pretty soon. I feel like maybe not a lot of people are talking about it. And I know you guys aren't fighting game guys, but Soul Calibur is like the most accessible fighting game. You're just swinging around weapons. It's like Bushido Blade, except you don't die in one hit. My sweat, or no, my thank you, I'm going to give it to Smash Brothers for the impressive Castlevania representation. We're getting 2 Belmonts. One is one's a clone of the other, and that's really exciting. I was only expecting Simon Belmont, but also the Castlevania stage looks sick. But most importantly, they're putting 34 Castlevania remixes in the game, in the soundtrack.
Yeah.
34 different Castlevania songs, and it is
Fucking
such good
dope.
fucking music. It's gonna be so great. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Now just Advance Wars. Come on, that's actually first party. Do it, Nintendo jerks. My fuck you for the week is gonna go to the Tekken announcements. Now they announced 3 characters. 2 of them are returning characters, so that's where the big fuck you is, right? Because they're bringing back Anna Williams and they're bringing back Lei Wulong. Either of those could have been Julia. You know, the next one would have been Julia. Now, their season 2 does include 6 characters in total, so Julia could definitely be one of them, or JC, her Luchadorus persona. But then they announced the third, or they teased the third character, who I think is at the end of season 2 character releases, which is Negan from The Walking Dead?
Yeah, what?
What the fuck is that? What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
That was the weirdest thing.
Noctis
weird
is
anime.
weird, you know, and so is like Akuma in what's his face from King of Fighters, or from. But the point is, like, even with Noctis, like all those characters were still very like anime,
Yeah.
you know.
And we got
Negan from the I don't
That's
watch Walking
random.
Dead, but I'm familiar with this character because, you know, he killed like some other character, and I saw the Dave Chappelle sketch.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I did see that. That was a good sketch.
Yeah. But like this doesn't fit at all. First of all, he has a bat. You know, Tekken's not a weapons fighter. I mean, Yoshimitsu's always had a sword, but I mean, it's always been kind of a gimmick. Like, what? Just give me Julia. What is this shit? Negan.
terrible.
Jesus Christ. You know, someone found a tweet from back then where, like, from like last
Oh, I
year,
saw
where
that.
Harada was like, so what do y'all think? What characters
Yeah,
do you
and
fucking
someone was
like?
like,
Someone was like, Negan from Walking Dead, and Harada responded, oh man, that'd be crazy. Would he use his bat? It's like, fuck.
But you see, like, after that, like, just that guy went back, like, the other day and found that tweet, responded, like, holy shit, you did it.
Yeah.
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 Jesus Christ.
And my sweat is finally my sweat is going to be for all of these fighting games because I tend to get obsessed over fighting games when I do play them, and I have the potential of getting into Smash, Soul Calibur, and back into Tekken. I don't like the person who I become. I don't have time to be that person that I become when I play fighting games. So that is my sweat. I'm terrified because I'm sure one of these or all of these are going to hook me. And yeah.
Great. We'll never see him again. Nolan.
My 4-player minute starts now. My hype is for Chasm. I haven't been playing it enough, but I'm kind of excited for the potential that is there. I'm definitely going to play some more. My sweat is to No Man's Sky. I have been playing that, and like it's frustrating because I shouldn't be. Like there are other games I should be playing over that. But I have been enjoying my time with it, which is what makes it frustrating.
Play what you want.
No, it's not about that, Nick. It's like if I want to
Treat
play,
yourself.
dude, I could fucking play any of those games on that shelf and be happy. It's not what it's about. It's more about No Man's Sky is a game that I feel like I could spend 100 hours and get nothing done. If that makes sense, you know what I'm saying? It's just like whereas there are so many other games where I feel like if I were to be playing Chasm, I feel like I'd be making progress. If I were to be instead of playing No Man's Sky, I should be playing Suikoden 2. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually feel like I would get somewhere with that. I don't know. That's my problem. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the game. I don't know. My fuck you goes to Fallout 2, just because of all the shit I've had to go through for it so far. I really
you're doing it, man. I'm proud of you.
I really hope that opinion changes, and I'm gonna keep playing it, and I really hope I can like kind of push through the beginning to get to the point where it's you know, I'm gelling a little bit better with the game, having a better time exploring and doing stuff like that. So hopefully that happens. And my thank you is going to go to the community for especially helping me with Fallout 2. I was having I'm trying to remember the name now. Hold on one second. Recycled messaged me a while back. I don't know if I already thanked him, but he was like, "Hey man, you know, I heard you having a hard time with Fallout 1, and that sucks, and I want you to like that, and I want you to like Fallout 2." So he actually gave me a big list of like some helpful tips and stuff. Like make sure when you set up
This
your
is a community member?
Yeah, community member. He sent me a message on Discord.
Nice.
So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone who was in chat the other day, kind of giving me some tips and pointers for early on stuff. That really helps out especially when the game doesn't tell you stuff like that. They're like, hey, you know, probably should go to you missed something back in that town. You should probably go back and do that. That'll help you out. And so stuff like that. So yeah, I really appreciate that. That's making my time a little bit easier with the game. But yeah.
Is it Recycled?
Yes, Recycled. Did I not say that? I thought I said
I
his name.
You
Yeah,
did.
Recycled.
Recycled. Cool, thank you. No, Crispy.
All right, my hype this week is for Simon and Richter Belmont and Smash. That shit looks dope. I can't wait. That's like the
I'm glad we're
first.
kind of coming around on.
Well, I
Smash
mean,
for a little bit.
there's a lot of characters in Smash that I already really love, but none of the new stuff. Like, I wasn't excited about Ridley. I wasn't really excited about King K. Rool or like anything new, like the stuff that you want to be excited about.
Sure.
I wasn't really like that hyped up on, but fucking Simon and Richter look dope.
Yeah, I mean, they announced
Like-
3, 4. They announced also like Crom and
Yeah.
and
Crom is a
Echo
is an
and-
Echo
and
fighter
another
for
Echo fighter.
Lucina.
But like that's already more stuff that they announced at E3 in that long ass session. So
Yeah.
like, it's not surprising.
They also announced,
we weren't
like-
hyped then, but we're hyped now.
They announced like the full soundtrack and the total stage count.
That
and,
the
like,
soundtrack and the stage count's nuts.
Yeah,
What is the
800
total soundtrack?
800
like
tracks.
30 something tracks, I think.
No,
it's
800.
800 is the total.
What?
shit.
What was
Yeah.
The soundtrack is 800
Including like
songs.
menu music and everything.
Oh,
it's
but
800
total
tracks.
for Smash.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Smash overhead,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the stage is over 100.
It's 103
Oh,
stages.
stages.
Well, I was just wrong.
Yeah.
By the way,
That's
this
insane.
is
Dude, but like some
as
of the
someone
other
who
stuff
did not
they
watch
announced,
the direct.
dude,
yesterday.
like
I didn't watch it either.
Oh,
like
y'all
they're
should
putting
watch
fucking.
it.
I know.
They're putting Rathlos from Monster Hunter as a trophy in there. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
Not
fucking
a
Alucard,
trophy and boss.
trophy and boss.
But
Alucard and
the cat-
Dracula.
y'all need to fucking watch. That.
I didn't have
When did it come out?
Dude,
I'm going to
yesterday.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
dude,
yeah.
I'm fucking.
There's
busy,
a great,
man.
there's a great like fucking cinematic
It was over 30
trailer.
Castlevania tracks, is what I was referring to.
Yeah,
There's a great like cinematic trailer with Luigi and Simon Bell.
How are they gonna fit all that on that
fucking great.
cartridge?
I don't
This game
know.
is getting
It's
ridiculous.
fucking because they didn't change the engine at all or anything.
yeah.
It's fucking great. But that's my hype. My
Oh,
sweat.
wait. Also,
Yeah.
Richter and Simon amiibos.
Yeah.
Finally, some
yeah.
affordable Castlevania merch
Yeah.
in 2018.
Dude.
I'm super gonna get both of those. I'm psyched. Also, Dark Samus is a
Yeah,
Echo
as an
Fighter of
Echo
Samus.
Fighter.
Yeah, I did see
That's
that,
also
yeah.
an amiibo. So another Samus amiibo.
Nice.
Yeah. Fuck. I just wish that Alucard was a playable character.
Yeah.
Um.
Or Andy.
Yeah. My sweat is for Chasm, not necessarily for my experience because I'm loving the game. Like I'm really into it.
Yeah.
I was a little taken aback by the kind of general reaction to the game,
Yeah.
and
And the lack of like
Yeah,
anything.
like-
People talking about it.
yeah, like no, like people. It came out. People were just kind of like, oh, and then just like dropped it. You know, and that's really sad because. I can understand, it's like Brad was saying, we live in a post Hollow Knight world, so I can understand there being like these huge expectations for these new Metroidvanias and like Castlevania and Metroid inspired games coming out. But I don't know. I think people are overlooking like a real attention to detail and quality in Chasm.
yeah.
I think there's
Visually stunning.
yeah, visually, auditorial, like the audio, like the soundtrack and stuff is great. The mechanics, like the feel of the game is fucking great. Like it feels like an Igavania. Like I don't know. I've been really into it. And I'm kind of worried that people are just like giving up on it, which really sucks.
I'm just worried about the developer, especially because it didn't come out on Switch. I think that's hurting it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because now it's like if you're a hot indie game, you got to come out on
You
Switch.
gotta
Well, we'll
right?
do our part to
Switch,
give
yeah.
it some coverage. We'll talk about it on a 4Player Plus.
Yeah.
Say that until Death's Gambit comes out, and it's like the sickest shit.
Yeah, and I mean that's what sucks too. Is like this is a month where like it's really easy if you're not instantly in love with a game, you can just like drop and go play something else because there's a bunch of great games.
Yeah,
coming out.
that's what it is.
And it's
a good problem to have,
That
though.
really sucks. So I hope some people like come back in a few months and take a look at Chasm again.
Waiting for
My
the switchboard.
my fuck you. Ugh,
Negan.
I don't know.
Goes to Negan.
Yeah, Negan. That's weird. That's just weird and kind of funny. But like, I can definitely feel your pain on that. Also, like the whole like, the Riot Games expose that came out. It's not really like a fuck you, but it's more of like a bit of Schadenfreude or however you pronounce that word.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
Why'd you
it's
say
just-
that?
It's just because like that's a fucking trash game with a garbage community, and it's like, oh,
Hey.
and you're telling me that the developers also have a garbage culture too.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh,
It's a
that's
trifecta.
shocking. Like,
Trifecta.
yeah. And my thank you for the week goes to, I'm going to give it to Brad for last week because he did spend a lot of time and a lot of effort curating the selection of games that we played. And even
Some
if
of
we
them
didn't,
were good.
even if we didn't quite connect with all of them, I know he put a lot of effort and thought into it. So I appreciate.
I don't give a
that,
shit.
Brad.
I was having
Thanks,
a lot.
Chris.
I was having fun.
Yeah.
There's lots of screaming happening.
Hey,
There's
I thought-
screaming
I
happening.
had a great
fun
time.
is being had.
No matter what I thought of any of the individual games, I thought it was a great evening and I had a lot of fun.
I did too.
Yeah.
We should do it more often.
And we will one more time this month. My
More
hype this
often.
week goes to fucking Red Dead Redemption 2. Holy shit.
Damn, I gotta
That
watch
trailer they released today, I want to talk about that in the 4Player Plus this month as well. But that trailer they released today took my hype from about like a nice, crisp, cool like 9 out of 10 to like a fucking 20. I'm so fucking excited. And there's still more videos to come. We've been talking about, like, we've been waiting for these. We always love these style of trailers that they do for their games, and we were wondering if they were going to do it for Red Dead 2, and it turns out they are. So we have a couple more of those coming out. I can't wait to see more of it. Red Dead, I was just reminded today that Red Dead Redemption 2 is easily one of my most
We should do like a
anticipated
Western
games ever.
film festival to get hyped for.
Well, I gotta say, I didn't go from like a 9 to a 20, but I was like completely soft for Red Dead. But I did like the last game, and seeing this finally, like none of those other trailers did.
They were
anything for
okay,
me.
but yeah.
Like they literally did like nothing for me. But I watched this one kind of going and expecting to go, whatever. It looks like Red Dead, looks like Cowboys, but it looked good. Like I'm excited. I'm gonna play that game. It got me hyped when I wasn't expecting to get.
I'm specifically speaking as someone who's always considered Red Dead to be one of my favorite games ever. And
which is when everyone knew you were already hard for that.
I
game.
know, but like I didn't think I'd get this hard. Holy shit! I need to call a doctor.
He's so hard it's inverted.
Like I've had like 4-hour plus erection or something, and I need to call a doctor or something. What is it? What does it go?
I mean, you know the next 2 videos or whatever are gonna be like way better. Than this
You know
one,
what
right?
happens when they do that, Nick, right?
They stick a penis or a needle in your penis.
Oh God, no!
And they drain the blood out of it.
Oh God, never mind. Why'd you have to bring that up? Shit. Anyways,
It's a trap. Don't
my
do
fuck
it.
you of the week goes to Nolan for bringing that up. Just kidding. It goes to me because fuck. I have Chasm. I have other games to be playing right now. I cannot stop playing Jurassic World. I'm coming in on 50 hours in that game. I only have 2 more
That's
dinosaurs.
good. I'm glad you're liking it
Only
so much.
2 more dinosaurs to unlock. Only 2 more missions to complete. And as soon as I've done that, I am done. I had 1 more island to complete, but I found out it's not. Chris Davis told me it's a sandbox island, so I was like, oh, cool. And I get there. Not only is it a sandbox, there's no missions. There's no limit. You have unlimited money. So it's literally just make the park of your dreams. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll do that. That'll be like my topper for that game. Holy shit. My thank you of the week goes to everyone who tuned in on Sunday to support me through my Resident Evil 2 stream. I had so much fun. I love that game to death. In fact, it's made me, we talked about it earlier, it's kind of made me want to maybe take the same approach to some of the other games in the series. Like, because like, you know, some of the older Resident Evils are a little bit shorter than some of the newer ones. So like maybe Resident Evil 3, maybe even Code Veronica, tackling both of those games in a day. I might take the same approach. So very much looking forward to doing that. And my sweat goes to the fucking, I'm trusting you, chat. I had so many people in chat telling me that, Nick, you're a Resident Evil fan. You have to watch those CG movies. And I got online and I bought them. They come on a single disc for $15. I got them. I'm going to watch them.
Were they just punking you?
Probably. That's why I'm worried. But I mean, like, I'm more worried because the only reason I haven't watched them at this point is because, based on what I've seen of them, they seem to kind of represent everything that I don't like about the series now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, what
The
kind of
story?
taste could these people have? They're watching us.
yeah, I know. Good point. But you know what? They could.
You know, I've thought about that.
They could still be fun to watch. So I'm gonna
Like
try
in a-
them.
Really existentially
Yeah,
desperate way.
yeah.
I'm gonna watch them and I'm gonna report back. We're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna try and watch them kind of like chronologically where they fit in with the canon of the games. We'll see what happens. And anyways, that is our show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. 4playernetwork.com is the website. You can find us streaming games every single night. Don't forget, August is 1998 month, obviously, as we've been talking about all night. We'll be streaming more games from this year all month long, and we'll be talking about more games from this year on next week's podcast. And we'll be doing a Nintendo 64 retrospective, so tune in for that. As I mentioned earlier, too, please, if you're interested in joining the community or supporting us, find us on Discord, find us on Patreon. We'd love to have you. And what am I missing, guys?
Jesus.
What have you done, Crispy?
Sorry.
Anyways,
You keep saying you're missing shit.
I don't know. I
think you're
I
good.
feel like I'm forgetting something. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys later. Good night.
Bye.